Welcome to Channel Awesome's YouTube channel, where you can watch me as the Nostalgia Critic.
I declare this sucking.
Me too, I'm out of here.
Yeah, out of here.
This is balls.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
Hello, I'm the Social Injustice Warrior, and if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out. And I give you my word, I will never do that like that again. By now, I'm sure a lot of you know what Channel Awesome is. Maybe not necessarily by name, but by reputation, and more importantly, content. For a decade now, the brand's interacting internet personalities have put out video game, movie, and even lamp-related reviews. Managing to not only be successful in the art of reviewing shitty movies, but managing to make shitty movies along the way. I mean, they were practically living the American dream. Even if not all of them were American. So I'm sure that the fans would be wondering what it's like to interact with these people. What's it like being in a work atmosphere with them? Because let's face it, there's a bunch of super fans who want to know everything about their favorite product. They want to be behind the scenes. But do they though? However, surprising to a lot of you, I'm sure, it seems like there was a lot more going on behind the scenes than just shooting fatigue and overall workplace frustration. I mean, if there wasn't, then how would you explain all of this?
So, what I wanted to come here to explain is why we left Channel Awesome.
Just wanted to make this video as a formal goodbye to Channel Awesome.
A lot of people have been asking me lately about this stuff with that guy with the glasses, why I'm not on that site anymore and shit.
The major thing is that I left Channel Awesome.
Near the end I said this is my last video.
We had ethical objections to the way they were treating people.
I would like to please ask that you consider subscribing to me on YouTube, because, well, I won't be posting here anymore.
And within this series, we're going to be taking a look at what led to the mass exodus of that guy with glasses, and find out what turned Channel Awesome into Channel Awful. I actually took the liberty to print out the Google document here, and I just want you to see that there is a table of content of problems. And most of the people in the table of content... Hold on a second. They have their own individual tables of content. How does that happen? There are problems on top of problems on top of subdivisions of problems on top of more fucking problems. Quite frankly, I'm impressed. How am I supposed to start? This is fucked. Alright, so let's get into it. Let's talk Channel Awesome. And there's no way of talking about Channel Awesome without first talking about its own equator. You know, the thing that everything revolves around by the laws of nature. I'm not entirely sure that's right. I didn't pass science. Let's continue. The face of Channel Awesome himself, Doug Walker. It's an empire built upon Doug Walker. That guy with the glasses, the Nostalgia Critic. Doug Walker, the man you all know as the Nostalgia Critic, doesn't even own the character. No, that's Mike Machad's. Doug Walker, despite being the face of the channel, is, well, just that. Only the face.
Maroney? He's a fall guy. I'm the brains of the organization.
Doug Walker. And more so over the puppet master who pulls his strings. Nostalgia Critic is not as in control of his destiny as he'd like you to believe. You see, because Doug is nothing more than a perpetual ventriloquist dummy. Sure, all the attention and focus is on him at all times, but the real mastermind behind the whole process is the guy with his fist up his ass. Mike Michaud. How's that for a fucking metaphor?
Hi all, I am Mike Michaud, CEO of Channel Awesome.
And what a man he is. A man whose business sense is just as strong as his sense of morality. And you'll see what I mean very shortly. So I did some research on Mike Michaud, and here's what I figured out. So I've been doing some research on Mike Michaud, and here's what I've been able to come up with. Now, we know that Mike is bald. Bald. And bald people are fucking gross. Ew! Put some hair on your head. Disgusting. And speaking of his bald head, he may just have as many good ideas as he has remaining hair follicles. Because he's the mastermind who brought us Bar Fiesta. Never heard of Bar Fiesta? Well, neither has anyone else. And the world is a better place for it. Not to mention he brought us that shitty game show that almost destroyed the entire channel's credibility and royally pissed off the whole fanbase. Like that one time I went on Wrestling with Regret. And that game show was a show so terrible that even the people who were involved with it didn't want to be involved with it. But that feeling is not at all foreign to Mike, because most people who were involved with him on any kind of level very rarely want to be. Especially people of the female variety. And taking one look at Mike, even the nearsighted would be able to tell you that this man has woman problems. I mean, just imagine the amount of rejection that face has seen in its lifetime. But outside the obvious woman problems one such as him would endure, because, well, let's face it, dude looks like a severed thumb, he apparently has a lot of different problems with women. There are several allegations of him being needlessly aggressive with the women he worked with. Some said that his behavior was borderline bullying.
My exit starts with the mid-rolls of Patreon. I'd been struggling for a while to pay the bills, and ad revenue was down. And one of the things keeping me afloat was extra mid-rolls, which weren't extremely popular. But I also had to do that to make barely enough to live, as this is my job. So while I'm in Chicago, Mike corners me while I'm alone and proceeds to tell me that my mid-rolls are screwing everybody else by making people turn on ad block. And it was very hostile, unprofessional, and uncomfortable. I told him I needed to do that to make enough money to live, and he didn't care. And he also told me they left up comments about the mid-rolls as a hint to me, apparently. And it ended with me crying in a bathroom over how I was going to pay my bills. This was followed shortly after with a call from him and Doug mandating how many mid-rolls we were able to use, among other insulting things. Doug suggested I simply make more videos, like his TV show vlogs, because that was just his work ethic. I, of course, wouldn't know about a work ethic. Mike was also unaware that I'd been posting on Sunday for 3 years and implied that videos that weren't OLPs didn't count. Anyway, I'm looking for an alternative way to make money, and Patreon is starting to do well for some folks. I decide, why not? It wouldn't hurt to try it out. So I start one up, and I ask if Mike can put a link up to it under my next video. And Mike and company do not know what Patreon is, and have not checked because they've decided in their heads what it is. So he tells me I'm not allowed to promote it. I explain that it's like an ongoing Kickstarter, and he tells me they won't promote those either. This is despite them having already promoted NerdQuest stuff and their own Indiegogo, which you might remember was given $90,000 for something they have yet to produce.
With others stating that every female departure from Channel Awesome since he stepped in as CEO was a direct result of him stepping in as CEO, most of the women felt uncomfortable approaching Michaud. Whereas he was neglectful and dismissive of the men who complained to him, he was much more angry and aggressive when it was a woman that challenged him. He's also an oafish sloth who was so lazy that a meeting once actually had to be called to tell him to get off his Shrek 3 looking ass and go do something. And let me tell you something about Mike. Mike is the type of guy to end a meeting with a fist fight if and when he decides to show up to one. Now that's a guy I'd keep employed. As a matter of fact, that's a guy I'd promote. The guy no one talks to and in turn doesn't want to talk to anyone, someone who won't even attend their own meetings, blaming whatever misfortune he'd be having on female employees, having them occasionally take the blame for some of their male co-stars. That's a CEO. That's a decision maker right there. The type of guy who loathes the people he's paid to watch over so much that he ignores complaints and mistreats employees. And that is employees in air quotes, because no one at Channel Awesome actually got paid. Well, no one outside of their Chicago team. They were paid in exposure. Also known as the "fuck you, you struggling artist" method of payment. If all that's written is to be believed, then Mike mismanages such an unprofessional work environment that everyone just kind of seems to be running around like a chicken who just been through the guillotine. It's like church versus state if the state was somehow located inside a giant church. You see, I was gonna use a brain versus heart metaphor here, but then it felt entirely inappropriate considering, Mike has neither. When a negative perspective started to overtake the entire channel on Michaud, it was suggested that he shows what he does on a daily basis, so this way he could try to sway that opinion and show that he's a company guy. Of course, he rejected that idea, for some reason. When it came time to redesign the Channel Awesome site, Michaud would show his business prowess by contacting the web designers of the White House website. When they priced it at $50K, he instead turned around and just bought a $100 template. What a power play. It should be noted as an example of the lack of management at Channel Awesome, an interview was once conducted with Rob Walker, and Walker was under the impression that he was speaking to a producer. But that should be expected when your CEO is a lazy asshole with zero communication skills and looks like a forgotten Will Sasso sketch. A guy who, when faced with criticism, resorted to using the power he had over these reviewers and threatened to fire some. And yes, that is fire in quotations. Jess Otaku allegedly had chat logs of their abuse and counter-threatened them that if they let her go, she'd release such information. But I don't want to paint the wrong picture of the guy, because the truth of the matter is, Michaud didn't just idly threaten to get rid of those he didn't like. He did it. Take Benzai, for example.
My name's Benzai, and you know that I'm always kissing guys.
A seemingly friendly guy whose content wasn't exactly setting the viral world ablaze, but it wasn't entirely awful either. Apparently, he crossed Mike by attempting to put a stop to Michaud selling his girlfriend's artwork without giving her any commission, and he was fired with no fanfare. Farewell, asshole, how dare you? How dare you question the kingpin of Channel Awesome? Dr. Gonzo described his time with Channel Awesome as 7 years of hell. He details the intentional isolation that was cast on him by his channel colleagues, allegedly at the request of Michaud. Michaud saw Gonzo as trouble and instructed everyone to treat him as such. He was constantly reassured that his contributions meant jack shit to Michaud, with Mike repeatedly telling him that people didn't flock to the site to hear from him. His videos and podcasts were a constant fixture at the bottom of the page, and the only time that Mike would contact him was to basically berate him, to such a degree that Gonzo has stated that he fell into an almost suicidal depression. The most appalling thing in all of this is that when Justin Carmichael, better known to the internet as Jewario, committed suicide, Gonzo reached out to higher-ups to suggest putting together an online wake in his memory. Rather carelessly, Michaud responded not to worry about it and that the channel would have real reviewers discussing Jewario's passing. You know, the people that people came to see. Meaning Mike's mindset was basically, fuck this guy that died, fuck his struggle with depression that eventually led to him taking his life. How can we profit off this? You know, never mind that a well-respected and well-liked online figure and someone that you knew personally just passed, no time to mourn when you could be making money, right? What compassion. Despite all this, Sloth from the Goonies still found enough time to pat himself on the back. He'd often brag about how the site hosted all the contributors' videos without asking for a cut of their revenue. And never mind the fact that all the contributors generated traffic on the site, thus giving them revenue and making the whole ordeal mutually beneficial and symbiotic. Here's to hoping the next time he pats himself, it'll be on the back of his head. With a brick. You look like Tommy Pickles fell on hard times. You look like you didn't make it to All Grown Up. You look like something out of a Stephen King novel. You look like the long-lost illegitimate son that Uncle Fester never told anybody about. You look like an adult version of Eric Cartman. You look like the boss baby had a growth spurt. You look like the baby from Dinosaurs right after the meteor hit.
I can't believe it's no butter.
Let me guess. Came from a small family. Mom and dad were brother and sister. You were thrown in a lot of trash cans. Never got any TGI Friday invites. Didn't have a lot of dates, and you took your mom aunt to prom, and now you mistreat those around you to compensate for the life you didn't have. See that? I just fucked your shit up, and I haven't even watched Good Will Hunting. You look like Smeagol discovered cupcakes. I wonder if the reason that you're so awful to people is because deep down inside you just want to cuddle. Well, it's either that or you have a really tiny dick. I mean, no, I don't mean to be sophomoric here. I'm just saying that I think that there's some science and validity in that statement, that's all. You look like you were the illest Limp Bizkit fan back in '99. I'd be willing to place money on a bet that you own a copy of Chocolate Starfish. With that being said, I think it's time to move on now.
It's a nostalgia critic again, isn't it?
But what about Doug Walker, the nostalgia critic himself? Now, I know we talked about him a little earlier, but let's do what Channel Awesome does best and put the attention back onto him.
You did this? But why?
To remind you of who you are. And to bring you a warning. The warning is... Stop being a douchebag!
I know a lot of you in the comments section are getting ready to write me a long-winded novel about how Doug is a good guy, and he's just oblivious to all the inner workings of the brand that he's a mascot for. And yes, make no mistake, Doug is a fucking mascot at this point in time. But let me ask you this. Do you really believe that Channel Awesome's fans know more about the inner workings of the company than Doug himself? Does that really, does it really make sense to you? My theory is further given validity with this statement from Obscurus Lupa. Doug likes to use willful ignorance to absolve him of responsibility.
Are you willing to let down the people that got you here? Your friends? Your allies?
Of course!
If you want to believe Doug is oblivious, you yourself are either oblivious, or ironically enough, you may just be trying to save your sense of nostalgia. I'm sure Doug would rather be seen as nice and dumb than naive, neglectful, and overall negligent of those in his vicinity.
No, you just thought up to where everyone was in charge and you were ruling the fucking world. Yes!
To his credit, he doesn't have to do all that much acting, considering Doug is pretty inept in his own right. Doug spent his whole life having someone hold his hand and show him the way that now he doesn't know how to do anything for himself. And this includes simple tasks like pressing record on a Skype call. That guy with glasses was a brand that represented Doug. After all, the moniker was that of a character he'd invented and desperately tried to get over. In an attempt to better assist those he worked with, they decided to switch the branding to Channel Awesome, to try to give all the other reviewers a chance in the spotlight. But just as soon as Doug cast that spotlight, he made sure to immediately overshadow it. Channel Awesome was just as much, if not more, about Doug than the channel that came before it. The YouTube account named Channel Awesome exclusively uploaded episodes of Nostalgia Critic and Friends. Even the banner for the site consisted of Nostalgia Critic and a bunch of his own side characters. No one else. Clearly, this was the new era that everyone was hoping for. But of course Critic had to promote himself because he's both Tim Burton and Johnny Depp in his own works. An eccentric, over-the-top man behind the camera, and an eccentric, over-the-top man in front of it. While making Suburban Nights, despite not having any kind of permit and therefore authority over those who stepped on this very, very, very public, let's be nice and call it a set, Doug barked orders and directions at anyone who happened to walk upon such a scene. Now I want you to imagine that for a second. You're walking in the woods, going for a stroll, maybe taking your dog for a walk, when you stumble upon this low testosterone looking asshole dressed up as Link from Legend of Zelda, and he's shouting orders at you.
Kick your fucking ass! I want you off the fucking set, you prick! No, don't just be sorry, think for one fucking second. The fuck are you doing? Are you professional or not?
Doug's writing is annoyingly flawed. It pains me to watch a lot of what he's written. I mean, sure, it works in a review of existing content, but he on his own can't write characters, and better yet, can't write for those he's worked with. The characters in his movies aren't just characters, but internet reviewers. People who aren't known for their acting prowess. They're known for their charisma. I mean, take Phalos, for example. A lot of his line reading is awful, even in his own videos. But that's somehow part of his charm. His unenthusiasm for life connects with people, which is why I'm still subscribed. My point is that they're internet personalities. So their personalities are what people come to know and love. In the Critic's films, they don't get to showcase their personalities, or even why people like them. They're just all playing Doug Walker. They don't say things they'd normally say on their channel. They don't even deliver lines the way that they normally would. They're all just Doug. I mean, look at it. You got Short Doug, Angry Doug, Nerdy Doug, Doug with boobs. Doug! And that's no accident either, as that's Doug's only directing style. Do it, but do it the way that I would have done it. And it really takes you out of these movies if you're a fan of these reviewers. Because without their characters, they're just a bunch of people mostly acting badly in a forest dressed like it's Halloween. I mean, they look like they missed the ferry to the next Comic-Con convention. Also, Doug can't write for women. He can't do it. Future reference, not every woman uses the word hun. I know that seems like a small thing to bitch about, but when you just got done binge watching this shit to make these videos, you start to notice patterns. And I just want to help you out as a writer. Not every woman talks like that. Most don't, actually. It's like writing a guy character who always says dude, bro. Like, sure, some people do. If you have one character like that, okay, fine. Those people exist. But, like, everyone? Really? Everyone? Doug's writing consists of ripping off famous movie lines in a completely unsubtle way.
You're out of order, cinema snob!
You're out of order, they're out of order, the whole system is out of order!
Won't somebody think of the children?
Name is not Joe. It is Inigo Montoya. You killed my brother. Father, prepare to die.
Okay, what is best in life? To crush the enemies, see them driven before you, and hear the lamentation of that woman.
I must remind you, Critic, I am a civilized man with occasional lapses.
You belong in a museum!
I get it! That was good one. I get it. It's like it's from the movie. You're the first guy to make that joke. It's a good one. You should be happy.
I mean, once or twice is a throwback, you know, but 3 or 4 times in each scene, just don't do it. Then there's Doug's sense of humor, which is equivalent to BoJack Horseman doing stand-up. He feels the need to constantly try and explain the joke, even when it's self-explanatory. He can't just let you laugh at it and then move on. No. He wants you to analyze it. You gotta really think about it. Even when there's this much mileage, he has to try to stretch it out this much. Oh, you can make a bad gift from that. I shouldn't have done that. And what's funny to me is that for every joke he's ever made about Tommy Wiseau, the biggest irony is that he's no better. Hell, Doug is practically Tommy Wiseau sans accent. Much like Tommy, he had to be told simple shit about being on set. I'm not exaggerating when I say that there's complaints that directly parallel Tommy Wiseau's time working on The Room. Like the fact that he subjected his cast to surreal working conditions in harsh weather and didn't think to provide them with food or water. And also, like Tommy, a cast member has fainted on his watch as well. But unlike Doug, Tommy knew to shoot with more than just one camera. And also unlike Doug, Tommy's actors were actually paid. Doug is so involved with himself that he has no idea what goes on in the world around him. And what better example is there of Doug's delusions than To Boldly Flee? Ah yes, To Boldly Flee. It was the last collaborative anniversary film, and maybe that's because it was the last time that Channel Awesome had something to celebrate. A lot of people regard the making of this movie to be their tipping point. You see, that's when the bandwagon hit a speed bump and then it went straight downhill. To Boldly Flee was an effort of all the creators of Channel Awesome. A movie that is 3.5 hours long. It's a movie that inconvenienced most of those that worked on it in some way or another. But apparently that's nothing new with Channel Awesome movies. It's a film that Doug and Michaud conned his actors into paying for with crossover reviews. So they were essentially paying to co-star in Doug's project, including Phalis, who was also the special effects department. This was supposed to be his send-off. This was the Nostalgia Critic's big farewell. This was his chance to ride off into the sunset so he too one day could become part of the nostalgia. Which is why, despite it being loaded with cast, Doug is still the centerpiece throughout. He's both the hero and the villain, and the writer, because yeah, that needed to happen. We really needed to see the Nostalgia Critic meet Doug Walker. That totally wasn't self-serving at all. No, that's artistically integral to the plot of this comedy movie about internet reviewers in space. That has references to buttholes. Notice that throughout the film, the age of reviewers is talked about coming to an end. Because don't you see, without Doug, there's no reviewers. This was a giant fuck you to all those who had helped him over the years, and more importantly to those who dedicated themselves to this production. Doug was the writer and star of this. He could have easily written himself to pass the torch. He could have easily tried to elevate some of the other reviewers in the eyes of his viewing audience. He chose not to, probably out of fear of being upstaged in the big finale. So he basically flipped everyone off on his way out the door. But then again, we all know that's not the first time he's done something like that, don't we?
What have we learned today, boys and girls? Boys and girls, we have learned that that bridge has officially been burned.
I say that's an understatement.
During the filming of this movie, incompetence was the name of the game. In a quick fire round, I could tell you a good portion of Lindsay's footage went missing, so they had to fly her back to film them over again. They'd hounded Phalis to shoot a green screen scene, which he said he'd do at home. They agreed. Then at last minute they tried to bring them back to the set, only for them to say never mind and scrap the scene entirely. And speaking of Phalis, they relied on him heavily for effects. Which is fine because he's known for his cheesy effects. That's kind of something he does a lot on his channel. And they assumed that he'd be able to animate 3D flying houses that shot lasers. In turn, he told them that he could animate the lasers. At some point during the production, they questioned if Phalis is half-assing the effects he put into the movie. So instead of asking him to make adjustments, they instead asked Welshie, hey, you think Phalis is half-assing his workload? A cameraman on the shoot, who would later be credited as the director of photography, against his will mind you, attempted to assert his knowledge of cinematography, pointing out that a shot was a contradiction to the 180 rule. Now this led to an argument, and the man stating that he would never work with him again. Which, by the way, if you have to force somebody into a credit on your movie, maybe it's just not worth it. For any of the parties involved, really. This is a movie that had a lot of behind-the-scenes issues. And a lot of last-minute script changes. From plot points, to lines of dialogue, to entire scenes having to be scrapped entirely. But you know what scene wasn't scrapped? Because it was, again, very essential to the plot.
Nostalgic, Linkara, you know, there's a meeting downstairs and... I'm gonna give you 2 a month.
Young brain, you look like you heard 2 people having sex.
How would you know?
I'm French. We know. Well, are they coming?
Well, that's a loaded question.
And no, you didn't misinterpret that. And if Doug had his way, there would be no way that you could have. Here's the original script. She tries running for the door, but rushes with lightning speed and closes it. He approaches her as she backs up against the wall. He holds up his hand, which now has a sharp device shooting out of his wrist.
Resistance is comical.
He approaches with the device, her eyes widen in fear. Film Brain approaches the door, mug still in hand.
Nostalgia chick, Linkara, there's a meeting downstairs.
Loud, suggestive thuds beat through the walls. Power drill noises and squeaks ensue, punctuated by chick squeals and moans.
No, don't put it in there.
Do not resist. Submit. Submit.
An embarrassed shock overcomes Film Brain's face.
I'll just give you 2 a moment.
Oh god, you're as hard as metal.
Downright essential to the plot. Could not have made this movie without this scene. It couldn't have done it. Needed to happen. Both Linkara and Nostalgia Chick Lindsay Ellis, the actors who were in that last scene, protested it, and while they managed to get a bit of it changed, they still ultimately decided to have Lindsay come back in and add comedic rape noises to the mix. Directors, I get that you need to make your art, and as somebody who has done the directing thing, I get it. Like, I need to make shit too. But if your actor says they're not comfortable doing a rape scene, maybe just don't have a rape scene. Especially in your comedy, it just kind of puts everybody out of it. Like, maybe just don't do it. Maybe just don't. Maybe just don't. Movie's already 3.5 hours. There's a bunch of shit you could have taken out of this. That was probably number 1 though. What makes it even better? The only person perfectly unaware of the overall fatigue and frustration of the cast, despite it being blatantly obvious, this fucking guy. Hell, if you watch To Boldly Flee, you can even see some of the wear and tear in their performances. I mean, Phaelus looks like he's about to fundamentally break as a human being. Someone give that man a cookie and a hug. Doug had to actually be pulled into a private meeting on Skype after filming had commenced to learn that everyone was happy to see Critic go at that point. To Boldly Flee is his crowning achievement in stroking his own ego to a full-on climax. And you know what? If you listen real closely, you could hear it yourself.
Okay, you were a character that I created for an online media show. I don't mean to brag, but it was a pretty big hit. And so I was writing the yearly anniversary of the creation of your character and the site it was on. And in the anniversary, I write in that you go inside this anomaly, and the only thing I could think of that'd be really cool inside that anomaly is if you meet up with the writer. And here we are.
Despite working with all these other reviewers, and really, look at them. He put himself over each and every one of them. Continually. There's a lot of people in that talent pool. A former Channel Awesome affiliate is quoted as saying, "Every decision felt self-motivated and uncaring toward other producers. It was the Doug Show." And that person's colleagues seem to mirror that sentiment. However, I'll disagree. I mean, sure, that's what he'd like it to be. Maybe he even thinks that it is. But it's never really been about Doug. And history has proven this. When he tried to break away from the Nostalgia Critic, everyone let him know exactly how they felt about it. Because no one subscribed to see Doug Walker. They're subscribed to see the Nostalgia Critic. It's all about the fictional character he created and sold the rights away. And in its own unique way, that's basically its own kind of prison. Whew, and that is all the time that we have for today. If you want to learn more about Channel Awful, then don't forget to like and subscribe. To make sure that you're up to date with all the latest SIJW content, and more importantly, the next part in the Channel Awful series, then you might want to ring the bell. Then you might want to ring our bell. That wasn't a sexual innuendo. If you took it as one, you're probably not having a lot of sex. I've also left their Google document below to make sure that you can read more of their discrepancies if you so choose to. I'd like to thank them for trusting me with this sensitive information beforehand. That's why I was able to make this video. Alright, well, I gotta get the hell out of here, so I'm gonna do that. Hey there, I just want to thank all the VTards for watching. I swear it's a lot more appealing than it sounds. I know what a lot of you are probably thinking. You're probably thinking that this is gonna be premature. You're probably thinking that, like a virgin on a porn binge, we blew our load before we even got to the second video in. But you couldn't be more wrong. There's still a lot to cover. There's production problems, there's sexual harassment allegations from various parties, on various parties, there's the sibling rivalry between the Walkers, and I'm not talking about their shitty non-review reviews. There's a lot, which is why this needs to be broken into parts. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, then let me know in the comments section just how VTarded you are.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
Oh, well, hello there. I'm that guy with the goggles. And no, you know what? I'm not doing this shit. No one's gonna fucking watch this. No. Hey there, VTards. I'm Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso. Just as unattractive as you last remembered. Maybe a little bit more. I don't know. That's up to interpretation. And when we last left off in our Change the Channel series, we spoke about a couple things. We talked about Doug's delusions of self-grandeur and his overall narcissistic personality. And we even got to take a closer look at behind the scenes on To Boldly Flee. But we are nowhere near done with the story. As a matter of fact, much like my last video, I had to divide this one up into 3 parts.
I don't know what they want from me. It's like the more money we come across, more problems we see.
With Channel Awesome's success at an all-time high, they opened up an Indiegogo to fund several of their projects. And, how did those projects go again?
Alright, catch those fish, boys! I would ask if this is the cheap dollar store version of this game, but I can't honestly remember what the original version was called. We gotta find out what's in that glorious box, Miss Stockholm.
Answer every question like Optimus Prime. Oh, I saw that movie. Back when I was able to see movies.
That would be Grenada. Oh. You said Grenada, it would have so been wrong. In which Fox TV show did Johnny Depp play an undercover cop in high school? John.
21 Jump Street.
21 Jump Street. And also Mordecai the series. In the show, I'm Brad Jones. This is Pop Quiz Hotshot.
Oh yeah, they were so awful in both concept and execution that it forced Doug to return to making Nostalgia Critic videos. That's right. Almost forgot about that. Because after earning $90,000 from their fan base, they took that money, sat on their ass, and didn't deliver. And it would stay that way for a year and a half. The situation got so bad that Indiegogo had to twist their arm and threaten an investigation in order for them to release their footage. They'd promised a full-fledged 40 episodes of this, and out of the promised 40, the public got 12. Now, I know what you're thinking. This show is so bad that that's a mercy killing. They were doing us a favor by not allowing it to go on longer. 40 episodes of this shit? I don't even want to sit through one. I'm with you, okay? I get it. But you also may be asking yourself, well, why just 12? Why did they cut it off at 12? Well, because 12 is the exact number it'd take to legally cover their own asses and write it off as a failed effort. This way they could fulfill their Indiegogo goal without, having an investigation into what goes on at Channel Awesome. Wouldn't want that bad press. And clearly, that was $90,000 well spent, because that money that was supposed to go into Pop Quiz Hotshot, Awesome Comics, and the Gaming Gauntlet. Awesome Comics and Pop Quiz Hotspot shared a set, which looked like it took $12 to make, while the Gaming Gauntlet remained in developmental hell, never to see the light of day. But honestly, maybe it was better off not having been created, because, let's face it, everything else Doug is a part of, not called the Nostalgia Critic, is pretty much destined to fail in the most public of ways. In typical Channel Awesome fashion, they had to be reminded to give out prizes. They also attempted to rig the questions, so this way the challenger would win. But unfortunately, somebody mixed up the cards and Doug would win. But it's okay, him being the guy that he was, even though he's making all this money, he had a moment of humility, because he took that $100 gift card and he shared it. What a fucking guy. He shared it. And you know what? That was $50 that he needed. He probably needed to buy himself a new tie. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, V, I'm pretty sure ties aren't $50. To which I respond with, that set doesn't cost $90,000. Clearly, they have no concept of money. But back to the $90K. Where did all the money go? Well, first let me tell you where it didn't go. Into the pockets of those working at Channel Awesome. Now, we stated before that Channel Awesome didn't pay its reviewers in anything outside of exposure. We even mentioned that when making To Boldly Flee, they actually asked their reviewers to basically pay them in order to help complete their film. As a matter of fact, it seems they didn't want to pay anyone, really. Those who made music for them, those who made their art. I'm probably not going to talk all that much shit because I do the same thing. But the key difference here is that no one gave me $90,000.
Is she alright?
I don't know.
Maybe she needs mouth to mouth.
Hey! This is my job. Hey, she's coming around.
That makes me a sad panda.
For every bad thing that's ever been said about Channel Awesome's mismanagement, whether it be in the past entry or in the future entries in the series, most could be written off as a typical dickish shit, I think throughout history we could see that most humans don't do good with the seat of power. They kind of become entitled, they become self-centered, and unfortunately, as of recent news, we now know that they become so entitled that they feel entitled to others. There are multiple accounts, though not currently detailed, that state an unnamed producer was grooming members of the female fan base. This is a direct conversation from a Jane Doe who at this point in time doesn't wish to give her name, and she claims that she was groomed by this member at Channel Awesome. I'm not going to provide commentary for this, just give you the transcript as is.
Hi, I'm one of his victims. I have nothing but hate for him. It makes me mad at all of you. Even though I know you don't deserve it, it's why I left. Yeah, he groomed me.
I think we first need to come to terms with the fact that a lot of people in this chat legit did not know.
That's something I need to come to terms with. I burned so many bridges with you because I was so angry. But I'll tell you my facts. But I want to leave out anyone else who doesn't need this shit.
To me, the most damning part is that folks knew and had a chance to cut off his access to fans early, and did not.
I don't know. I'm sure I'm part of it. I could have been louder. I'm no angel. Anyway, you all knew me back then. Physically, I was 18, but I had the mind of a 16-year-old at best. He groomed me, convinced me to take my clothes off for him, told me he wanted to teach me how to kiss, fuck, you know, made it seem like it was teaching someone how to read. Anyway, I genuinely thought he was being a passionate teacher. I came forward as best I can. Yeah, it wasn't until I read a pamphlet on child grooming techniques that I went, holy shit, that was me. Yeah, that's the damning part. Since he didn't hurt me, I wonder how much of it was him genuinely thinking he was helping me come into my sexuality. But I am really done with all of this. I'm a different person in a different world, and I really can't drudge it all back and remain mentally healthy. This is about as brave as I get. I was so mad at all of you. I'm glad some of my anger was misplaced. I'm sorry I burned so many bridges. I was just so angry. Yeah, part of the reason I couldn't say much was because grooming isn't illegal, and I can't say he raped me, so there wasn't anything to tell. Yeah, seriously. Like I said, when I read a pamphlet on child predator techniques, I was like, what? Oh my god, that was him and me.
Jane, if you want to say anything else, do you recall how long it was after you came forward to CA management that he was finally let go?
It's kind of hazy, but I'd say maybe a year?
Something like a year between first finding out he was sexually grooming female members of the channel's fan community to them doing anything about it?
Yeah, that didn't really help me feel any more heard. LOL. I have to say, this was very therapeutic, and I'm sorry for all the times I lashed out at you all. You didn't deserve it, and I took my anger out on you.
Lindsay Ellis, the nostalgia chick, is quoted in the document as saying,
"There was a streak of harassment against female contributors. The worst case that involved me resulted in an extended case with the NYPD. This was not the only instance of harassment that went unremarked upon by CA. There was a rash of harassment against CA producers between 2013 and 2014. Mostly women, which was never acknowledged nor condemned by CA.
For at least 2 years, those at Channel Awesome were notified and knew about the sexual harassment and misconduct that took place, and in turn, chose to do nothing about it. Sean Faust, who you may know better as Hope Within Chaos, describes a time in which he befriended Mike Ellis, who was another producer on the site, that guy with glasses. It was kind of a water cooler friendship. The two met on a group call and hit it off in a completely consensual, friendly type of way. Well, somewhere along the line, it seemed that Mike got the wrong signal, and he tried to take things in another direction.
I heard from a little birdie you were gay. Oh, I heard you were at least bi. Oh, so you're just curious about guys then? Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you off. Hey, Sean. Hey. 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 Hey.
Ma! Mom! 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 Mommy! Mommy! Mama! Mama! Mama!
What?
Sean recalls that he shared details about what he wanted to do to him, and in turn what he wanted to have done to himself. His desperation allowed him to continue out that conversation on his own. During this time, Ellis began calling Sean his sexual cupcake, which Sean even asks, what the fuck is that? Now, Sean, look, I've had a lot of run-ins with a lot of people who think that they're intelligent, so let me help you out here. He called you a sexual cupcake, Sean, because I'm pretty sure that if you responded, he would have asked to lick your icing off. Sean went to Mike Michaud. Remember that stretched out mini-me? Yeah, him, with his complaints. Michaud in turn responded,
Damn it, I told him he can't be doing this shit.
Hey, that's funny. Isn't that almost the exact quote Ben Affleck said when that crazy chick from Charm told him about Harvey Weinstein? Huh. That's weird. But there was much more to Mike Ellis than harassing his male employees. You can call Ellis Hannah Montana because he was trying to get the best of both worlds. Ellis also tried to pursue site admin and human resources, a woman named Holly. Which, let me stop you right there. Sexual harassment is never cool, under any circumstance. But trying to sexually harass someone in HR is, it's kind of like offering a crack pipe to an on-duty police officer. It's not even a matter of right or wrong, it's a question of, what the hell were you thinking? What are you doing? Were you even thinking? Ellis attempted to pursue a relationship with Holly, despite already being a married man. In the business world, that's what you'd call a conflict of interest. After she rejected him and brought to light what she calls severe mismanagement, he wrote her angry letters threatening to fire her.
Anyway, Mike Ellis fucking gets shit canned. They fucking kick him out of the company he helped to create, which, you know, probably a fucked up story there, but I don't know what it is, so I'm not gonna fucking comment.
This also led to Holly having to be escorted by Doug, Rob, and others carrying baseball bats and a sword in case Ellis was going to try anything crazy. They even armed themselves with pepper spray. Well, thank God. Thank God that samurai swords were in the budget. Sometimes fact is really stranger than fiction. I mean, just think about it. The Nostalgia Critic, fatter, less funny Nostalgia Critic, and probably coked up Tommy Pickles standing side by side to defend this woman's honor. That's some behind the scenes footage I would pay to see. Fuck it, alright? You don't have to give us another episode of Demo Reel. I pray that you don't in any lifetime. You don't have to do another whatever of pop hotshot quiz, whatever the fuck. We want that footage. I think everyone would forgive the 90K issue if you released that footage. And if you didn't think to film that, then what the fuck are you doing? Oh, and remember that fist fight I mentioned in passing that Mike Michaud got into? Yeah, on the opposite end of that was none other than Mike Ellis. I guess there was like a Highlander rule at Channel Awesome where there could only be one completely unlikable asshole named Mike in charge. So here was where I was going to put another section. A section that will have to be added to a later installment. Because Channel Awesome, in their infinite wisdom, has released this statement, which I feel the need to share. We wanted to take a moment to clear the air and acknowledge some of the recent public concerns raised by content creators previously associated with Channel Awesome. Channel Awesome is an organization that respects our producer partners and strives to create the best possible environment for everyone. We welcome a diverse community of people joining together to create great videos. For people who have spoken out against past instances they deemed hurtful or unprofessional, we sincerely regret that you felt that way. Our priority has always been to help content partners succeed and provide people a vehicle to follow their dreams. When the need arose, we have distanced ourselves from people who are particularly callous, letting go of significant stakeholders in the interest of keeping our mission at the forefront. We appreciate and hear the frustrations of past producers. We're actively taking internal steps to better improve communication with our producers so they can be focused on putting out their great content. And we're open to constructive criticism, the kind that can help us become even better and serve the needs of our community. But criticism that isn't a means to a productive end does little for either party criticizing or those in the line of fire. Our focus now is moving forward with the wonderful team we have and all our dedicated followers. We want to make our collective future the best it possibly can be. We thank our content creators, team, and fans for truly making Channel Awesome. Here's to creating something even better in the future. And listen to that wording. We sincerely regret that you felt that way. This isn't an apology. This is a non-apology. This is a fuck you, you're wrong. This isn't meant to apologize to their former content creators. This is to wash their hands of any and all situations they might be held responsible for. And, by the way, you'll learn in the next installment that that's not the first time they've done something like that. And honestly, I think that this should tell you a hell of a lot about the integrity of those at Channel Awesome. And if it doesn't, then I promise you my next video will. How do you end after that, you know? Like, how do I send you guys off without being entirely miserable after watching this video? Oh, I know. So in the interest of fairness, I'm just going to pull a name out of my hat and we're going to go from there. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Mike Michaud? Remember Rufus from Kim Possible? This is him now. Feel old yet? You look like the bizarro version of Lex Luthor. You look like somebody's big toe. You look like a shaved rat-a-tat. You resemble an inbred Nosferatu. Look like Captain Underpants took a bad turn in life. That's from a man who publicly walks around in his underwear. You look like King Kong Bundy's mini-me. You look like Timmy Turner when he hits his late 40s. Can someone show that? Look, that's you. Look, in all seriousness, I've been trying to figure out where it was that I've seen this guy before. Because I know that I have. And boom, there it is, Human Centipede 2. You can't unsee that shit. Just like the Human Centipede 2. And also much like the Human Centipede, you too spew a lot of vile shit, don't you? Fuck, I'm good! Thank you all for tuning in again to the Change the Channel series, and we're still not done yet. We still haven't covered the mass exodus from Channel Awesome. We haven't talked about how Channel Awesome practically ruined one woman's life. Don't worry, we'll get there. And we haven't even spoken about Big Bad Rob. Oh yeah, he's the type of guy you wouldn't want to meet in the sandbox. And I want to give a shout out to a couple people. I want to give a shout out to Channel Awesome, because without your incompetence, I mean, truly, none of this would ever be possible. And I also want to give a shout out to the person who thought they were insulting me and my fan base by calling those who watch me a bunch of retards. I mean, without her, I'd still be calling you guys my viewers. And, you know, let's face it, that's just boring. So to all the retards still watching, just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out. I should probably mention that since making this video, Film Brain and the Rap Critic made like Doug's hairline in Departed. And to all of you in the comment section, saying that I'm a dick for making these videos, to all of you thinking, hey, this guy is a mean-spirited, sardonic, cynical asshole, well, I'm sorry you feel that way.
It's that real shit, yo.
Butterfly in the sky.
Come on!
I can go twice as high.
Let's get it on.
Reading rainbow.
This is the shit I be talking about. You think it's a game? You think it's a real game? What I really want? What I really want? Bad or die?
Everyone there was bad, which made their producers sad. And now everyone is mad at everyone, but not the Nostalgia Critic.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
I bet you're wondering what Doug Walker gimmick I'm going to rip off this time to start the video off. Well, I'm not. Fuck you, but thank you for the subs. And that was my impression of Channel Awesome. Hey there, VTards. I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, or as the YouTube comment section knows me, Nazi Snowflake. Let's just get to it. Chaos D1 was a contributor on Channel Awesome, who was removed for not meeting his 2 videos per month demand. He wasn't told up front, but found out after trying to log in. Greg Michaud, oh yeah, there's another one of them, at first claimed that this would be his first strike, before getting royally pissed and deciding to make it his final strike. Pretty much just as quick as it sounded. Or you could take, for example, where almost the exact same situation verbatim occurred between Tom White and Greg Michaud. Just look at the chat log. You may also remember that Benzai was dropped unceremoniously. Topher Ames, also known as Fool Fantastic, was dropped for similar reasons, despite telling the head of HR, Holly, that he wouldn't be making videos due to things going on in his personal life. Or you could take Mike Dodd, for example, a guy who worked on their side website, Blistered Thumbs. He offered up his expertise, recommended the right people to run the site, and as you probably guessed, he was not at all listened to and instead got shit-canned. Not only was he fired, but he was fired without his knowledge. They dropped him from the site without speaking a word to him. But luckily enough, they were kind enough to tell his coworkers before it happened.
Alright,
Also, I believe Mike Dodd was waiting for his password too, so I don't think
That's-
he's online right now. But
I mean, that's the one person where you might not be bringing in, so... I thought I had you from before. I thought you were part of the group meeting with all these stuff. So... But yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
There are other examples I could list here, but just to save everyone time, let's just say that this was a common occurrence. It should also be noted that when Spoonie left, he received a heartfelt goodbye in a future Endeavored post. But when other producers took their leave, all their content was immediately deleted from the site and their YouTube page. I'd imagine with all the departures now, their archives must be running pretty dry. If you don't believe me, try looking up Lupa and Critic's A Talking Cat crossover. You can't. Because it no longer exists. Now, I've read a lot of people respond to all these accusations and allegations as the subject of jealousy on the parts of the former Channel Awesome producers. But here's the thing. Channel Awesome's own air quote employees don't seem to agree with you. That's why so many of them have left. From Rap Critic to Filmbrain to Chris Stuckman to many, many, many others. Gone. And this is all since the documents come out. But here's a few reasons why producers might be pissed.
They hated that we went to MagFest because of a bad experience Doug had there once. Long story short, my friend Derek did an 18+ panel at Con, and he was literally sponsored by Bad Dragon, and they gave him a free dragon dildo, and he used it to frost a cinnamon roll, and the Nostalgia Critic had a panel in the same room, and after his panel and the Nostalgia Critic walked in without knowing what had transpired and said, "Hey, free Cinnabon," and ate it. It was nice and glazed for him! It was glazed! Poor man. There's not enough money to erase the shame!
Oh my god. As a dragon dildo. That was his bad experience at MagFest. This is why no one can go to MagFest, because he accidentally bit a dragon dildo.
Free Cinnabon.
Free Cinnabon.
I can just hear him.
How'd that get in there?
They made executive decisions that, despite not paying their contributors, made serious restrictions to how much money they would be able to make. These decisions consisted of limiting the ads that they could put on a video, and completely negating Patreon and other payment sites as e-begging. Now, while Doug and Rob signed their baby over to Mike Michaud, you may remember him. I think I might have brought him up once or twice in a past video. Despite that, it's still entirely unclear what it is Mike does for the company. Even their contributors and producers have no clue. They refer to him as a silent CEO. Those same producers also claim that Doug is a lot more responsible than he leads on, having a lot more say than many others, which shouldn't be all that surprising, except to the thousands of people commenting, "Hey yo, free my boy Doug, he ain't do shit!" You may remember in the last video I did that we talked a bit about the injuries that occurred on the sets of Suburban Nights and To Boldly Flee. There were a few, but what I didn't cover was that Channel Awesome had what I like to call a save our ass policy, or a SOA for short. Their contracts included a stipulation that pretty much absolved them of any responsibility under Doug's direction. If somebody got hurt, well, that's on you. Even if Doug told you to do the stunt that you didn't want to do, that's still your fault for listening to him.
Yeah, but there's those contracts don't hold up in court though. If you get injured on set and you're not being paid, you can still hold them legally responsible.
Iron Liz had her knee bashed in during a fight scene in Suburban Nights, except they could be held personally responsible, because Iron Liz was on set without a contract. Yeah, you see, Liz attended Suburban Nights as Linkara's guest and wasn't actually written into the film at all. They just needed an additional body for one of the cloaks. During a fight scene, the injury occurred, and in turn Doug and company in this case literally being the company itself, coerced Liz into signing a contract against her will. She was against signing the contract because that would give Channel Awesome rights to all the footage she shot during the trip, which she intended to use elsewhere. Now, keep in mind, when I say footage, we're probably talking about reviews shot on location, meaning that the content that she was creating for her own monetary gain would now go to Doug Walker's self-indulgent project. But you know what? It actually makes a lot of sense as to why they'd be so adamant about asking their actors to sign contracts that absolve them of any wrongdoing. You know, what with them making their cast work 18-hour work shifts without supplying them food, water, or a paycheck, or just the sheer amount of injuries that occurred on the set. Probably doesn't look all that good in court. You know what, though? I better ask my lawyer friend over here before I get too ahead of myself. Yeah, not looking good. As the document has since been updated, more has come to light about Liz's time on Suburban Nights. As Linkara couldn't drive down, she offered to drive him out to the location and help on set. This would become a decision that she'd regret immediately, as during her time on set, her car became the storage closet for old props not being used, as well as a transport for everyone to get from one place to the other. She claims she never had an off day during her time on set, while others did. She was also asked not to be part of group photos. She was denied food and water when it finally did become available, as she wasn't considered part of the talent, despite jackassing everyone, props and all, from point A to point B. And also already being a producer on the site. Hell, she wasn't even invited to the Suburban Nights wrap-up party. But to really solidify how thankless it was working on set, she literally never received any thank you, or any form of reimbursement for that matter. The set not being a set at all and actually being a park was freezing, and not a lot of people wore jackets. Try to remember that the cast were in Party City Halloween store outfits, so they weren't exactly dressed for the occasion.
So apparently I'm a glutton for punishment.
If you remember correctly in my last video, we talked a bit about Holly Brown. She was Channel Awesome Human Resources. In the last video, we spoke about her time with Channel Awesome and how site creator and producer Mike Ellis was upset that she'd rejected him. And I actually have an artist reimagining as to how Mike Ellis took that rejection. Can we roll that, please?
Well, I can respect your opinion. Sadly, I'm not good at rejection. I'm afraid you'll have to die.
Well, clearly, he was upset. She rejected him because he had a wife. But also probably just because he was Mike Ellis. That is a good enough reason also. Ellis took the rejection hard, and instead of moving on, happy that Holly didn't out him to his wife, he decided to threaten to fire her continually, writing her handwritten anti-love letters. Now you may remember that Channel Awesome feared for Holly's life after Mike's firing, so they had to put her in a safe house for a few days, escorting her there with baseball bats and samurai swords, which is completely unnecessary, but also entirely like Doug. During her time at Channel Awesome, she was asked to work every day of the year, something she notes that no one else was asked to do. She worked weekends, she worked holidays, vacations, during the day she had surgery. She even writes that she took a meeting on Christmas Day. Her social life simmered down as she missed a lot of events with friends. I guess she means like birthdays and bowling and shit. She claims that management acted like proverbial snakes in the grass and shit-talked all their employees, even the ones that they were on good terms with. Which I can relate to. That basically sounds like the atmosphere of every wrestling company behind the curtains. Pro wrestling is real. Pro wrestlers are fake. If there are any workers out there watching this that are offended by that statement, you're in the wrong business. Your skin is too thin.
What the hell are you talking about? What the hell does this have to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
Despite her hard work, by her own account, her words mostly fell on deaf ears. Not only was she not listened to, but she was downright uninformed by higher-ups about the inner workings of, let's call it a company. Hell, she wasn't even told about the last anniversary special. And this is the person who encouraged Doug and Rob to finish making Suburban Nights when they lost faith in their own project. Holly was a company girl. From all accounts about Holly, and this isn't just from her own mouth, but the mouth of others, she seemed to be a go-getter, someone who really applied herself and maybe even cared about her job. But you know what? That might have been her biggest sin. After getting surgery, Holly showed up to the set of To Boldly Flee. On the days she didn't show up, she still turned in her notes on the issues that she was notified about. When she did miss filming, it was to have her abdomen drained. And while I'm not a doctor, there's no MD after my name, I can tell you that does not sound pleasant. It's not necessarily something I would want for myself. Against doctor's orders, she drove out to see the higher-ups at Channel Awesome, only to be personally fired, without rhyme or reason. Which, by the way, is legal in the state of Illinois. Then they'd essentially blackmailed Holly into signing a contract that would bar her from working in the industry for 3 years, aka career suicide. If Holly refused to sign, she wouldn't receive the severance pay that she so desperately needed to live on. She was in fear of pursuing legal actions against them because they just acquired $90K. So now, not only was Holly out of a job, she was out of jobs that she could pursue. And that, my friends, is how you treat a dedicated employee. That's the way you send someone off who's helped you get to where you got. You let the door smack them in the ass on the way out. Let's quickly recap. Holly was subjected to sexual misconduct, had to be put into a safe house because her life was feared for, wasn't given the updates or information that she needed to do her job to the best of her abilities, not taken as seriously as the other people on Channel Awesome, worked days no one else was asked to, was asked to drive out to meet with Channel Awesome higher-ups only to be fired in person, then to make sure she couldn't be an asset to anyone else, they made her sign a contract that stated she simply wasn't allowed to work in the industry she'd already worked in. Otherwise, she wouldn't be receiving a paycheck that she needed to survive. Oh, and by the way, to everyone who's been trying to keep Doug Walker clean in this whole scenario, everyone trying to save their sense of nostalgia, suggesting that it's not him but everyone else around him, Doug was the deciding vote on Holly being fired. So let that sink in.
Yeah, my kitchen sink. You don't know what that means. Because a kitchen sink to you is not a kitchen sink to me, okay, friend?
No! 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 No!
It's okay. It's okay. You can't hurt anybody anymore. I gotta go wash my hands.
And they blamed everyone in sight, from that guy Rob to that guy Mike. But never Doug. He just needs a hug. Not the nostalgia critic.
And unfortunately, I don't have a direct roast round, but I thought that this would be the opportune time to read some of my fan mail. So guys, if you like this a little bit, we'll keep doing it. So let's get into it here.
All you're doing is spreading hate and making assumptions without actual evidence. YouTube and the real world have enough hate already, and all you're doing is spreading it around more and more, when the reality is, it's not your concern, nor business what goes on at Channel Awesome. I'm just gonna report you, plain and simple. Enough is enough. I'm sick of kids bullying, ranting, and making false messages to make themselves look good, and innocent, and above all, right. Kid, it's time you get a job and a reality check. If Channel Awesome decides to take you to court on your actions of hatred and bullying in these videos, they will win. And I'm speaking from a background in law. Again, you were reported, and this video is being reviewed by YouTube as we speak. And I am done here. I am sick of these allegations, whether true or false, being used for hate. The countdown begins for you through YouTube.
Well, you're going to be in for disappointment, as YouTube has already had to review this previously and gave it the green light. Secondly, it's amazing that you have a background in law, but you understand nothing of freedom of speech and expression. I'm not bullying anyone. I made a video. If people don't like it, no one's forcing them to watch. I never said anything on this video that wasn't previously reported on by people who've worked with Channel Awesome, or something that wasn't a joke. It looks like you have just as good of a grasp on humor as you do of the law. Please kindly take your idle threats and leave the way that you came in, through your mother. Have a good one. See that? I know you're not used to these, but that's the joke. That's the joke. And for this one instance in time, I'm you. The fuck was that?
Dear God, ever since this controversy happened, every single soul is angry at someone who has a gift, Doug Walker. I'm trying my best to enjoy my life, but I can't do that because of hashtag negativity, hashtag controversy. I have one word to say to those things. Hashtag fuck them. I'm going to try and save this channel. I'm going to do it for you, Doug and Rob. And I'm going to do it for our lives. And I hope that Allison, Obscurus Looper, will find a way to fix this. She's not a bad person, I know that. You know that. She's just blinded by jealousy. The nostalgia is falling. Channel Awesome is lost. I'm gonna need your help, God, to give me wisdom to save Channel Awesome. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be a hard year, but we need to do it. Channel Awesome could be the coolest website ever. Yet we can all go to that limit and save Doug and Rob. You with me? Hashtag never delete the channel. Hashtag fuck negativity. Hashtag save Channel Awesome. Hashtag make Channel Awesome great again. Hashtag make your entertainment better. Hashtag faith. Hashtag power. Hashtag Doug and Rob Walker forever. Hashtag awesome. The only thing we need is hope, amen.
And then God sent down his former fedora-wearing son and said,
Create shitty YouTube reviews. Use unnecessary cutaway gags. Alienate those you work with. And write rape jokes into your 4-hour space parody movie.
And his son Doug said,
I will, Father. I will.
This is boring as shit. Improve your content, bitch. And real quick before I go, there's a couple of shoutouts I gotta do here today because I couldn't have done this video without a couple people. I want to thank Mr. Wicked for the no pun intended awesome thumbnail. I thank the people who watch me for being a lot more talented than I am. I could have never done it without him. Literally, I do not have that capability. I want to thank Culturally Inappropriate Pedro and Pepe for making their brief cameo and reviewing that little Doug story. Just wanted to throw that in. I planned on using that a little bit earlier, but it didn't seem like the right time. And then I wondered, is there ever going to be a right time? I want to thank Dakota for having a child I can exploit and use as a prop. That means a lot to me. And I want to thank my goddaughter AJ for being so adorable. And if you guys can pretend that I never made that voice, that would be great for all of us.
And how about I launch Barry over like a kamikaze bear?
Good. I think you said "and" to this startup. Just say "how about."
Oh.
Alright.
And how about I launch Barry over like a kamikaze bear?
Don't say "and."
Just say, how about I launch Barry as a kamikaze bear?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You keep saying "and."
Let's make believe.
You're saying "and how about," yada yada yada.
Instead of just how about.
Yes.
I should start with how about. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And how about... Sorry, it's just... What's the difference?
It's a big difference, trust me.
Really?
Yeah, one means rape. No.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
Hey there, VTards. I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and before I continue with this video, I really need to take a second to apologize. In a lot of the videos I made these things that were known as roast rounds, and if you look at the comment section, it's clear that I've offended a lot of people. And while that wasn't my intention, I now come to realize that it's not so much my intention that matters, but the overall effect of my actions. So with that being said, I want to offer up my sincerest and most genuine apologies to Sloth from the Goonies. I mean, you've had a hard enough life as it is. And I really should have never brought you into this, you know. Let alone compared you to somebody like Mike Michaud. You don't deserve that. You deserve better. The people of YouTube deserve better, and I'm gonna try to provide. This video changed no less than 12 times before it was released due to an influx of new information. And the amount of things to cover has forced me to take what is usually a series divided into 3 parts and cut it down to 2. Because we don't have the room. And even in doing so, not only is this video still 40 minutes long, but there's a part 2 for this one particular video in an ongoing series of videos. Confused? So is the Channel Awesome fanbase. Despite already having addressed issues that former producers and now a growing number of fans have had with the product, and how it mismanaged money and treated the talent with a sorry, not sorry apology, they recently decided to make another statement on the matter, where they originally put out a we regret that you felt that way message. They're now going back on that non-apology and now going with a much more blatant fuck you, you're wrong tactic. Now in this note they mentioned that they can't address all 73 pages of the document, which is true, they don't. Nor do they try to either.
Okay, well what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna wait until, the Channel Awesome administration makes a statement to see if hopefully they'll make things right.
Our response. Since the posting of the Not So Awesome document on Monday, April 2nd, 2018, we have been exploring all of our options of how to address the lies that have been alleged by multiple disgruntled individuals with vindictive intentions. Channel Awesome has always tried to keep our dealings with our content partners out of the public eye, and despite any differences or disagreements, we have never publicly spoken negatively about any of them. But a response to the accusations leveled against us must happen. Obviously, we cannot address all 73 plus pages of accusations against us in this forum, but we will address the most egregious now. Accusation. Multiple content partners state payment for their contributions to the site were not compensated. Fact. From the beginning of the site, anyone that has been added as a content partner was informed that ChannelAwesome.com was an aggregator for their content. At no time did Channel Awesome take a cut of their videos, as the practice is with multi-channel networks, MCNs. The document talks about the drop in traffic to the site. Fact. While we did have an initial drop after the switch to demo reel, the real hit to the site's traffic came from our growing presence on YouTube. Accusation. A few content partners alleged a misogynistic work atmosphere by Channel Awesome. Fact. Channel Awesome's current and former female staff, including Tamara Chambers, Rachel Teets, Ayanna Wade, and Heather Ruiz. Roos? Oh, I already had gas anyway. Ugh. Channel Awesome's current and former female staff, including Tamara Chambers, Rachel Teets, Ayanna Wade, and Heather Roos, have had vastly different experiences than the ones described. We are always trying to improve ourselves both personally and professionally, and moving forward we will implement mandatory sensitivity training for all staff to ensure we maintain a culture of respect for all employees. Accusation. Holly Brown makes numerous accusations throughout the document. Fact. Holly Brown is a former employee and shareholder who was allowed to resign. Unfortunately, her accusations are not true and are vindictive in nature.
Unfortunately, they didn't do that. They just posted a thing on the site right now called Our Response, and it's just a rebuttal to a lot of the accusations, as opposed to what they should have done, which is an apology followed by an offer to try and make amends with the producers. I don't see why we couldn't all just sat down, have a conference call, and have a civilized conversation. We're all very intelligent individuals, and come to some kind of a compromise here. But that didn't happen, and it doesn't look like it will happen, so as much as it hurts me to say it, I'm done. I'm just done with Channel Awesome.
Instead, they kind of backtrack on one major issue, and then from there on out only bring up more minor and petty problems. I wonder if the gamer from Mars helped them devise that tactic. They call some of their accusers vindictive liars and basically state that these are either blown out of proportion or entirely fictional accounts. But do you know where, to me, they really fucked up? It's the letters, the tweets, the very, let's call it shy way that they've decided to go about things. Not showing your face, not at least giving a voice to address these serious concerns. And because you continue to use all these informal ways of speaking on the matter, your fans are. And that's your first problem. Secondly, if I had to take a guess on who wrote this disingenuous bullshit, I would say it's probably Rob Walker. And let me tell you why that's a bad call before I go on. Rob Walker is, next to Mike Michaud, quite possibly one of the most unlikable, fictitious people, not only on Channel Awesome, but to ever be associated with YouTube in general. The only person who should be speaking out is Doug. And not because he's more responsible for anyone's actions or anything like that, but because he's the only one who's somewhat charismatic and potentially redeemable through the eyes of most of the viewing audience. He's the one person they want to hear from. He's the only person that the fan base might listen to. Just a thought, though. A thought that you clearly didn't have. Now, a lot has come out of Channel Awesome's attempt at saving their own asses. But the biggest thing to come out of this response is the identity of who it was grooming the fans. Because whoever wrote this, it was Rob, clearly didn't bother to proofread or double-check his work. It was Rob. Because he supplied everyone with more ammunition about their incompetence and practically gave away the identity of the assaulter by including his first initial and firing date. As you can imagine, it didn't take very long for people to pick up on who it was they were talking about.
Accusation. Jane Doe accuses us of knowing about a sexual deviant for over a year. Page 66. Fact. The screenshot below clearly demonstrates the time elapsed from being made aware of the individual in question, name redacted for legal reasons, and the time the content partner was released from Channel Awesome, 3 weeks, not over a year. During the 3-week period, we consulted a lawyer and waited to see if anyone would come directly to us, as our only knowledge of this was secondhand. It is obvious the person who came forward with this in the not-so-awesome document wants their name protected, so we will continue to do so.
From Robert. Mike and Holly, I'd like to meet at 10:30 a.m. to discuss how we're going to handle blank. Thanks. Mike, I'm going to be at the location waiting for flooring delivery. Robert, wait, are you not going to be around at 11 for the meeting? Mike, the tracking updated to state that it will be delivered today, all the floor and wall pieces. It originally stated it would be on Tuesday. Robert, well, what do you want to do? Mike, plus I didn't get a hold of the lawyer. Just hold it off, you wanted me to talk to our lawyer, and he isn't in today either. Robert, well, it may be moot. The girl doesn't want to file a formal complaint, which means we can't really say it's because of his involvement with her. She's afraid of repercussions. So, the question is, what we tell blank? Just that he's dropped? Doug, I think we can at least tell him we've been getting complaints about it. That'd be my thought. Robert, well, the person who complained doesn't want it getting back to her. Mike, Holly, and I will talk later. I have postponed the meeting for now. Mike can't be there at 11 anyway because of a botched delivery. Holly, oh, and the three of us not talking let's see, are the three of us not talking about it tomorrow? Robert, we can talk about it tomorrow. Holly, oh, wait. Didn't Mike say something about talking to the lawyer? Or is that about something else? Robert, well, I asked him to ask the lawyer just in case. I suppose we can wait until Mike hears back. Blank asked via Skype text message what the meeting was going to be about. I just ignored him. Robert, did we want to drop blank on Friday? And if so, what time? Mike, early. 10 to 11-ish. Robert, okay. I'll grab him tomorrow or Thursday.
And within hours, a once beloved, a dearly departed video game reviewer turned into one of the most reviled, hated, and goofed on subjects of all the internet in record time.
What the hell?
You look great!
I look like Hugh Hefner!
Nah, for that you'd have to have 3 girlfriends, 1/3 your age. And I'm pretty sure that would land you in jail at this point.
Oh, thank you for that.
Wave high, should wave high. Go too big. Tickle, Mars girl.
No! God! No! God, please, no! 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 No!
Jewario visited my school once as a kid. Really great guy. I was touched. Mine too. He helped groom us on picture day.
Hey, won't somebody think of the children?
I can explain.
When I streamed this information, the comment section started strong. People saying, no, this can't be true. It can't be Jewario. He would never. And then it became, oh shit, did he? Please tell me he didn't. Please tell me, V. It wasn't Jewario, right? I mean, is it possible it was Lord Cat? I mean, because him we would believe. Him we don't like. Well, as awful as the information that he was grooming younger women of the fan base and behind the scenes is bad enough on its own. But the real breaking point for his supporters was this story.
I'm the woman that is being talked about in that chat log. I'm not Jane Doe from the Google Doc. That's another person that he did this to. I know her, and she didn't come forward for the same reason I didn't. We were, and still are, absolutely terrified of backlash. I understand that without more information, you can't prove that I'm just a nobody making shit up. But I'm not. I was told about this as early as last night, and after 5 years of being forced into silence, I cannot tell you how I'm feeling. People know now. They actually believe us now. The people I told about this, the very few, they knew I would not and could not lie about something like this. Because Jane Doe did try to speak about it before, she told a fan site. She was then called a troll, and that's like accusing a puppy of murder. Because of that, and this is why, way before what he did to me, I knew I could never, ever say anything without getting fucking crucified by these fucking psycho fans. He did a really good job of being the person to look up to and to trust, which is why no one would ever believe this. He took advantage of me when I was at the lowest point of my life. He knew exactly what he was doing. It was calculated. Then he shot himself. And I, and others, knew we could never ever talk about this, because he's not here anymore, and his widow could even sue us if she wanted. He has an elderly mother, and the thought of her knowing what happened made my heart break, so I kept silent. I talked to therapy for years. I still, every now and again, have nightmares of him and his face, and that horrific feeling of what he did to me, what he did to my body. I had to blacklist anything related to him on my Twitter. Seeing his photo made me sick. I hate that he killed himself. Even with all of this, I never ever would be okay with that. It's a terrible thing that happened, and I wish he never did that. But I cannot be okay with the sexual assault that happened to me, when I repeatedly said no, and he waited until I passed out. So anyone who refuses to believe this, that's your thing. This happened, and I'm not the only person, which is now obvious because of the Jane Doe thing. I just want you all to know that we were forced into silence for 5 years because of this fucking crazy fans of CA who refuse to believe anything bad about them, including some of their own producers. I reached out to one of the women who released this Google Doc to anonymously say something about this, and I was ignored. She knew about it and did nothing. So I'm glad that CA did this, even if it wasn't intentional. I have closure. In a way, kind of, after all this time. Thank you for reading.
So, apparently on the Saturday night of this MagFest, this person I know is going to remain anonymous, got way too drunk, as she kind of did during that period of time, and ran into Justin in the arcade MagFest. So she got drunk because there had been some shit that she was already having a bad time, and she runs into Jewario. And at first things are kind of okay, and then he apparently starts getting a little pushy. But it hasn't crossed the line yet. It's just one of those, okay, he's obviously drunk too, maybe he's not like getting the hint, you know? So she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna finish like playing Street Fighter 2 or whatever. And then she starts going up to her room because she's actually staying in the Gaylord. Or I think. I'm not sure if she was actually staying at the Gaylord, but she's definitely staying either there or like one of the ones across the street. Pretty sure it was the Gaylord. So they go up to her. She goes up to her room. He follows. Now that's already kind of a red flag. And she's just like, okay, but like she's intoxicated. She's not thinking straight either. She goes to her room, and then in her, you know, she's kind of doing that, like, no, don't follow me, like, no, I'm okay. And he's being like, well, I want to make sure that you're safe. I want to make sure everything's okay, blah, 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 you know. And so he hasn't really done anything worth giving him the fuck you. You know, it's just uncomfortable, but she's just kind of chalking it up to just like being drunk and awkward. Like, this isn't like hell worthy, this is just, ooh, this is a little cringe worthy. That's about to change. Okay, so she gets into her room. She walks through the door. Immediately fucking just trips over a table, passes out on the floor. Now here's where it gets graphic. So strap in. So she wakes up and she realizes that someone is naked next to her. And this is her tale of events. Someone naked next to her, and they have their fingers in her vagina. She starts to realize what's going on. It's just like, whoa, how did this happen? Like, what's going on? And she, like, you know, she's sitting there kind of paralyzed because, I mean, someone's got their fingers in your pussy. Like, they're just kind of like, you do not expect this. So, there's Justin, according to her, naked, fingering her. And she's like, excuse me? You know, but she's still like, she's still like buzzed. She's still not quite like, you know, she's aware of what's happening, but she's not like, you know, she ain't sober yet. And he's like, oh, well, she doesn't even like understand what his response was, but she's like, you gotta get out of here. And she pulls a random name out of a hat. A random reviewer that she knows is coming up to the room. Dude pulls out, gets his clothes on quickly, runs out the door. That is her description of events.
On January 23rd, 2014, former Channel Awesome producer Justin Carmichael committed suicide. This is something that has raised a lot of confusion and a lot of questions because anyone who knew Justin knew this didn't seem in character with him. It simply didn't make sense to us because the Justin that we came across and we remembered was always positive. He was always upbeat. He was always talkative. Even if you were in a bad mood or you were in an awkward situation or something wasn't comfortable, he would always start talking. He would always try to cheer you up and try to make you feel better. And I think the reason that Justin is really something special is because despite knowing what we know now, we will still remember him as this upbeat, cheerful, positive, wonderful human being. And that's because he has shared so much of that positivity with us. He has shared so much goodness with us. So this is a collection of, certainly not all, but many times that he has gone out of his way to make us feel better, to entertain, to make us laugh, and just share so much with us. So to you, Justin, just thank you so much for sharing so much with us.
And after hearing all that, after hearing that their beloved jewario, a YouTube icon, still made relevant by his continued fandom post-mortem, was now a, let me save my ass legally here, and say alleged rapist. You see, that's when he went from jewario to Justin looking down the barrel while I put on warrior apparel, Carmichael. Justin, only a Glock could stop this cock, Carmichael. Justin, if she's boozing and snoozing, her pussy's getting a bruising, Carmichael. Justin, I dipped in the well and my fingers still smell, Carmichael. Justin, do a double barrel roll, Carmichael. Or here's one of my personal favorites, just pretend you're dreaming, Carmichael. This man was admired by many. He was someone his fans made memorial videos and music tributes to. Someone who was overall loved by his community even after taking his own life. He was someone who was idolized. People had jewario cosplays. They made jewario style videos. He was beloved. So you could imagine the kind of effect this has on some of them.
So I found out about jewario today. And I still can't believe that I wanted this channel to grow and to be like his channel. I just can't believe it.
And this is a cautionary tale about how a man went from a household name, if you were in a household full of nerds,
No one likes you. No one likes you.
to Justin Hairless Cooch, here's my spooch, Carmichael. Justin, meet the fans, Carmichael. Justin, let me taste your yams or you'll get these hands, Carmichael. Justin, let me be your daddy or you'll get the satty, Carmichael. Justin, come be my bitch, don't be a snitch, Carmichael. Or again, this is another one of my personal favorites. Justin, slippery when wet, not out of school yet, Carmichael. And now there's even more information being passed around. Not only that there are more victims, but that Justin allegedly had a sex slave.
While this was going on, this was maybe about 2013 or so, and what happened was I received a message from a friend of mine who said, you know, there's some very nasty things that came out recently about a specific producer, and I'm crisis counselor certified, which means I have I'm not sure if the credentials are still active, but I'd be able to work on a sexual assault line or a rape line or a suicide line. So I had this credential, and people who knew me knew that I was doing this. And so they said, look, this person doesn't know what to do. Well, I spoke with this individual, and I can't really go into too many details, obviously, for their privacy and what have you. But I did know them. They were somebody that was an acquaintance of mine through the website. And I knew the abuser pretty well, actually. And I would even count that person as being my friend. So when the revelations came out with this, and I don't know how much more we can certainly get into it further, but like I said, it can take a while. But my motivation number one was I have to keep my mouth shut because I'm concerned about the person who had this done to them. They came to me in confidence, and if the abuser is revealed, then, you know, the kind of cagey response, I guess, from the internet is to try to figure out, well, who lodged this concern.
Yeah.
So the issue that I'm concerned with is I wanted to share, or not share, but to protect the identity of this individual as best as I could, so that involved me keeping my mouth shut. Now, what happened last night with Channel Awesome is they basically revealed who the person is.
Yeah.
I can confirm that with my experience on dealing with this person, as well as my time as a production assistant on Suburban Nights. So for me, this is sort of the burden of proof. I don't have to drag this around anymore. As well as there's two kind of main concerns that I'm focused on right now. The first one is, number one, when this individual died, and we both know who we're talking about, he essentially became martyred in a way. And suicide is absolutely terrible. I've lost 3 people, 3 friends to it. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's noble. I think it's terrible. And I lost a friend as well. But regardless of the good things that I had with Justin, essentially, he did these things. And like I said, when he passed away, any sort of criticism or bringing this to light would be shot down, because in a way he was martyred. And so if you're if there was a survivor out there, I think it would be very difficult before now to come out and say this happened to me, et cetera, et cetera. The second one is that Channel Awesome, for some insane reason, posted the details of this, and if they knew about it, my concern is, well, did they tell the police? Did they know somebody on their platform was potentially grooming children for sexual purposes? If you don't, I know when it comes to, being semi-famous even on the internet, you attract people who will say anything to get attention. But in this case, having spoken with this particular individual, that I'm 98% certain that what they're telling me was the truth. And that this, from basic conversations from other individuals, there's rumors now that there's certainly others that happen too. So my question is, did Channel Awesome tell this to the police if they had sufficient evidence to fire this person? As well as, well, what responsibility did they have to say, well, did this happen on their website? Did they alert anybody to say, okay, number one, yes, we want to cover our rears and make sure that this doesn't happen on our site, but don't you also maybe have some concern that it was still continuing? And if so, were there steps taken towards it? So those are the 2 points that I'm kind of concerned with. I mean, this isn't about my ego. I mean, I only stand to lose by speaking openly about this. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get people coming after me saying, why are you trying to sully his memory?
Sure.
And that's not the point at all. The point at all is to support, I cared about very deeply. He was my friend. But he also did these horrific things. And certainly the people that he affected should have the right to air those. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So there's actually something that you've been mentioning that I wanted to address. There's the implication that so you're using the word grooming. In the document, the person stated that they were over 18. So while unethical, there's it's not necessarily illegal ? Sure. But what you're leaving my opinions aside. But you're suggesting that there was more than one person to whom this happened.
Now, these are based on conversations I've had with other individuals.
Okay.
I think the anonymous person is not the same person that I spoke with, because I believe the person that I spoke with indicated that they had been raped.
Okay.
So this grooming individual, here's the thing. He had a cat girl army thing that he was doing for a while, and these were patches that you would pay and get a patch for this thing. But there was a thing called the Secret Treehouse with that guy with the glasses, which was kind of a place where fangirls could get together and write fiction and do stuff like that. And I know there was, he knew about it and was at least somewhat kind of tapped into that. So again, I can't make accusations on things I don't know.
Sure.
I just know what happened with this particular individual, and what they told me was that, if I believe, and again, this was about 5 years ago or so, but for what they told me, they were raped.
And there's, sharing
like
this.
I said, there's even more that I can go into with the shooting on the picked up his cell phone actually and saw some things when I was trying to figure out who the phone belonged to.
Okay.
So I was a production assistant for this shoot, and I was working tons and tons, and so part of it was running back and forth when they would go outside, and people would leave their cell phones. So I left a cell phone on the table and was like, trying to figure out whose it was. So I picked it up, and in the context it said my wife, and there was a second one underneath that said my slave. I'm willing to stake my credibility and integrity that what the person who spoke to me was telling the truth, that this was something I saw as well, and based upon some of the other, behaviors that were going on, I don't think it's, I'm certain that this took place.
That is all pretty fucking awful. I mean, that is quite a fall from grace. We went from having music tribute videos, well thought out music pieces, to collectively disregarding this man as one of the worst people to have ever used this platform ever. People like Darkside Phil more than they like jewario. Hell, people like me more than people like jewario. Although I will say this, unlike a bunch of people in Hollywood who commit these atrocious and vile acts, unlike how they still have devoted fans who will claim to the end of time that they're innocent even in the face of accusers and facts, jewario's defenders are much, much fewer and far between after hearing all this information. This is undoubtedly the biggest story to come out of the document, and the thing is, the document itself didn't even do it. It was Channel Awesome's response that damned them. In an effort to cover up their tracks and prove their innocence, they've only further outed themselves and given away the name of Let's Be Nice and call him a suspect. It's no wonder Rob has allegedly stepped away from Channel Awesome and social media.
But wait, there's more!
Could you guess who wanted to hire him back at Channel Awesome after all this information came out? Do you want to know who was pushing for his return? My boy Mike Machode, the Chode. I know, I said his name. I say words wrong sometimes on purpose. That was one of them. And I know what you're thinking. With all that information, that's gotta be it, right? I mean, how could it get any worse? Well, let me assure you, it does. Because we don't know nearly as much as we think we do here. Despite all this information coming forward, when questioned if there's more information on the subject matter of jewario, I've been told from more than one former Channel Awesome representative that they can't say due to legal matters. There's information there we don't have. Information they're legally bound from currently releasing, if ever releasing. And to the one or two people who still want to spam the comments and tell me that I'm wrong and that there's no proof, I question you here. Do you truly think that you knew jewario better than the woman he was married to? Because in the face of these accusations, his widow believes his accusers. And why? Well, because of a conversation that they had prior to his passing. There were cracks in the armor.
Here's the convo with Justin's wife. I'm talking with blank too. Thank you for reaching out to me. I don't know what to think. Although I believe you, I feel like I don't know who I was married to. Blank. I was going to advise her not to defend him. He's dead and doesn't need defending. But do you think that's a good thing to tell her? I think you know better than I do. Yes, she fully accepts these to be true. I can't say exactly why without violating her confidence, but it has to do with one of the last conversations they had.
Oh, you still don't believe me, right? You think I'm fucking with you? Okay. Well, how about I play this, and you tell me if this seems like a normal thing that an internet reviewer who had some fame would do.
Hey guys. Or to use the name that Justin gave me, Kitty Marie. Justin was my best friend, honestly. He was the best friend I've ever had. He saw me when I was nobody. When I was, I remember the first time I ever really came in contact with him was I posted a video right before Suburban Nights came out, and of why I liked Channel Awesome so much. I didn't even mention him in the video. For me, at that point, all he was the I like it guy. Because that's really all I had ever seen. And he just left this comment on the YouTube video, just 2 words, "You're awesome." And I'm just like, wait, what? And then he messages me on Facebook saying, "That was a very sincere video. You did very well." And I'm just like, I barely know you, but thanks. And a couple weeks later was my 19th birthday, and I knew he'd be streaming on that day. So I just randomly happened into the chat after I tweeted the fact that it was my birthday, and he retweeted it in his announcement for the stream. He's just like, "Yeah, it's her birthday, what of it?" And so I go into the chat, and he's like, "Oh, hey, Katie Marie. It's your birthday, isn't it?" And stops the entire stream to sing happy birthday to me. I was sold. I'd never actually seen Labyrinth, but the costume was intriguing. I played the role of the love-struck fangirl for a very long time. A very long time. It wasn't until really spring and summer of 2012 that we really became friends. For all intents and purposes, Justin was my best friend. I know I kind of became, well, meme status because I love him. I love him. I use the present tense because I still do. I will always be his #1 fan, and he will always be my best friend.
Do you know too many grown men who would try to prove themselves to an 18-year-old? Because I don't. Now, I know that there are people out there who are going to say rape jokes aren't funny, and I'm with you. I agree. But rape-ish jokes, however, are hilarious. You see, people who are willing to force themselves on others, they don't understand morality or human decency, but they do, however, understand humiliation. Well, except if they're, dead. Which he is in this case. Huh. So now a lot of you are going, the guy's dead, he can't possibly learn from this. But the rest of us can. And this is still an important message to get out there, because death doesn't turn men into angels. It doesn't suddenly absolve you of acting like a piece of shit. And people who treat others in the manner which he did don't deserve praise. But now that I'm thinking about it, this whole situation, it seems familiar. Like I've seen it somewhere. I've seen this play out. Oh
No, stay. Go with the flow. Stop! You're making me really uncomfortable. Stop fighting me. Just let this happen.
Sir, I think you're gonna want to see this. We have to tell the people.
Wait. Destroy it. Our people will get more from the idea he represented than from the jelly bean he actually was.
I'd like to dedicate this video in memory to Justin Carmichael's reputation. So this one goes out to a loving, caring YouTube reviewer and an alleged rapist and groomer. I like how you're the one who's too fragile to handle a 12-second intro clip, but I'm the one who's a snowflake. Isn't it weird how the people who usually use the term snowflake are people who melt at room temperature?
It's pretty funny watching these cucks. You talk really slowly and you repeat yourself constantly. The repeating was in the first video, just to extend the length of the video to get money by repeating the same points. Channel Awesome didn't die at all. I've seen many people saying the channel's dead, even though they're doing fine. Also, it's pretty obvious, you're not doing it to change YouTube and make it better. No, you just make them search for hate comments and pin them, which makes no sense because you talked about the people of Channel Awesome being mistreated. Well, you're pinning a comment so people can hate them, bully them, and embarrass them. Any comment that's basically sucking you off, inflating your ego, you like, but any comment that talks about Channel Awesome in any good way, you ignore them. Now, your ego, I'm assuming it's because your series is doing so well.
Well, thank you.
You probably think you're some sort of content cop protecting the internet by showing how horrible some channels are, even though the content is somewhat fine. You do realize that channels could be horrible because they are not handled properly, or stress causes them to be angry anyway. Back to ego. I will show multiple points of why your ego is getting very big. Embarrass people who have different opinions. Love every comment that agrees with you. Create a series for no reason. Reply to comments like you're right about anything. Constantly repeat the same point to increase the length of the video.
Let's pretend what you just said meant something. Embarrass people for having a difference of opinion. So when people are threatening to take me off YouTube for making content they dislike and I respond to that, that's me embarrassing. No. I'd like to think that, much like you, they're just embarrassing themselves. All I'm doing is putting it on display. Love every comment that agrees with you. You mean people like positivity? Oh fuck, we got a brand new scandal on our hands. I've been fucking exposed. This guy has my fucking number. Which, by the way, isn't even true. I usually like the hate comments because, well, I find them pretty funny. Despite making 0 accurate points, he managed to spam the same comment in my comments section no less than 80-something times. No exaggeration. Let me tell you something, that's dedication. Way to show me that my opinion does not matter to you. Has anyone ever told you look like Colin Farrell? Yeah, fucking everybody! Fucking everybody! Look at any of the comments. Oh, everybody! Always! Colin Farrell, CM Punk, fucking Sami Zayn all of a sudden. Who else? There's a couple other people. Casey Jones from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie. I've heard it all. None of those people even look alike either, is what's fucking crazy. But I look like all of them somehow. Shit.
Hey, Valus! Valus! Valus!
Oh, looks like Jewario's messaging me with his auto video pop-up and message me whenever he wants, Messenger.
Valus!
Hey, Jewario, what's up?
You want to see a ghost?
Well, I should probably say no to that question, but since I'm a big idiot like every character at every pulse, I'll say yes!
Downloading your face cameo!
Well, I've lost the will to live.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
This thing on?
My last couple of videos that I've made, and I wish I was making videos on other topics. I am so tired of talking about Channel Awesome.
Preach! Hey there, VTards. I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and another day, another Channel Awesome video. Am I right? Man, I wish I wasn't. We got a lot of ground to cover here, so that means that there's no time for me to be a sardonic dick. I'm already far too busy being a sardonic dick. Cat girls. Why did it have to be cat girls? Now, while I may have touched upon this, I really think that I might have overlooked it. I might have passed it by. It might have been lost in translation. I didn't really take the time to emphasize. Whereas I have VTards, Jewario had cat girls. I don't know if you know of cat girls, but they're like this fine line between kink and full-blown furry. Possibly you can consider it the transitional phase. And we all know how I feel about furries. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Catgirls in animes almost always are younger looking and typically are loyal and overly obedient. Now, I've been told that his fan base comes from his love of an explicit comic called... Oh god, this is where people are going to correct me in the comment section. Guys, if I mispronounce this, it's actually not me being a dick and intentionally mispronouncing it. I'm ignorant here. An explicit comic called Omaha the Catgirl Dancer, in which the main character is a catgirl stripper. That's what he decided to base his fan base off of. It's also important to note that his catgirl army consisted of mainly 16 to 18-year-old girls, so, any red flags waving for you yet? No? Oh, don't worry, we'll get there.
It wasn't a secret, looking at Justin's behavior, at least at conventions, that he interacted with fans.
Sure.
A lot of them were young women. He had a predominantly younger female fan base to begin with.
I mean, but of course, being into BDSM doesn't mean anything. I mean, I have 2 pairs of handcuffs, right? Let's continue. My point is, the information here mixed with the information that we already know, it's a bit uncomfortable.
Story time.
Actually, no, that's not the whole story.
And then the fact that how he preached, he was a Mr. Rogers type character that he portrayed. So to me, it was like, okay, that makes sense that people would gravitate towards that. But at conventions, though, there were things I saw that left me uncomfortable. Nothing I saw that was illegal, by the way, but just things that I thought were a little over the line. You know, I saw him give fans like shoulder and back rubs. Like they were willing participants, but the fact that he was doing that like in hallways outside of panels at MagFest, I thought was just kind of inappropriate to do that. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you can get a reputation for being like that.
You have to exclude his name, but I was dating Mr. Red on the site, so we met up at MagFest. One day we're going around and we run into a group of people, including Justin. He clearly sees I'm with Mr. Red. He comes up to me and kisses my hand. He tries to engage me in a conversation, and it looks really intensely into my eyes. It was a little weird, but then again, a lot of people are a bit weird. He put his hand on my shoulder and starts to pull me towards him, like he wanted to speak more quiet or confidentially. Again, weird, but I go with it. I didn't feel threatened or anything. Mr. Red looks over from the conversation that he's having, comes over and pulls me away from him. He was polite and hurried us along. He asked me what Justin said to me, and I said it was just some questions about myself. He said he didn't trust Justin because he had heard he'd cheated on his wife and just had a bad feeling about him. Turns out he was right. Like I said, at the time, it wasn't that alarming to me. I thought he was just a guy who had taken an interest in me and was asking questions to get to know me. I recently messaged Blank to ask if he remembered this incident, and he said yes. He had a bad feeling about Justin, had heard he'd cheated on his wife, and didn't want me anywhere near him. Again, I wasn't assaulted, but looking back on it, it was just eerie. I do remember several of the CA people running around Saturday night into Sunday, being very hush-hush. I assumed that was after the assault on Jane Doe,
for example, and I'll get into the other story later afterwards. So hell, the lasting image I have of Justin, the last time I saw him, which was MagFest 2014, and that was a MagFest, by the way, that I didn't get to see Justin, for better or for worse. I was running around setting up interviews for video game years, getting interviews with Egoraptor and Pro Jared and Mike and James and I think Brennel Floss, and just running around and doing all these things at the time that I didn't get a chance to interact with anyone. I was just busy. So the one of the only few times I got to see Justin was at the end, like going up the escalator, literally going up the end with like my DVD box, and he had his arm around a female fan walking like down the hallway, and that was the last image I ever had with him. So I never talked to Justin about his personal life. I felt like either it was apparent that his marriage was either they had an open marriage, or it was broken enough that he felt comfortable doing that there was an understanding. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get away with that, doing that stuff in the open without people asking questions.
Sure.
You know, so I always figured that was what it is, what it was. You know, he had this patriarchal nice guy image, but hey, he did talk to these fans, and maybe he dabbled every now and then.
I played the role of the love-struck fangirl for a very long time. a very long time. It wasn't until really spring and summer of 2012 that we really became friends. Otakon 2012 was what really sealed it. Sarah and Mikey paid for him to come to Otakon, and it was the 4 of us in the room. And this is one of my favorite memories of him. We were walking down to the convention center to get our badges. It was like 95 degrees. It was the middle of July, and it was 95 degrees. And I'm just like, hey, anybody want some ice cream? And so there's this soft serve truck inexplicably parked right outside the convention center. So the cone's already dripping by the time the guy hands it to me. By the time I finish, it's all over my face, some of it got in my hair, it's all over my shirt, shorts, and drooling down my legs onto my flip-flops. Justin is laughing hysterically. And he grabs my arm, he's like, we've got to get back to the room and get you changed. And we're running across the lobby of the Sheraton in Baltimore. I'm drooling chocolate ice cream all over the nice clean floors. And we get back up to the room and he just throws my shirt at me and he's like, for the good of humanity, just do it.
My initial reaction to this is, Jesus Christ.
What has come to public light within this past week involves my old former friend, Justin Carmichael, whom most people on the internet knew better as jewario. And boy, is this a difficult pill to swallow, because it has been publicly revealed, thanks to Channel Awesome and their response, that jewario was a sexual predator. So in our document that we released back on April 2nd, our not-so-awesome document that we as a big handful of former Channel Awesome contributors wrote and put together, while we were putting this information together, for a long time, Justin's name hadn't come up at all. That wasn't part of the discussion. And then another former contributor said, hey, do you think we should bring up that they knew about a sexual predator and didn't do anything? And a good hunk of us were like, oh, we don't really know what you're talking about. We don't know who this was. And that particular producer said, well, it was Justin, and I know the Jane Doe, one of the Jane Does who was victimized by him. She's saying she might want to come in and discuss this, and so she gets brought in, and this is the first time I've heard anything about it. And that's been a very big question, for starters, is this has become such a big deal of which producers knew what did you know and when did you know it. I had only first heard of this just barely before we released this document, before April 2nd. So I'd heard about it in March, before this dropped.
I have a feeling I'm going to move my face away from the microphone here and there just because I'm very distraught right now. It's pretty obvious to most people who have followed my content for the longest time that I made my bones writing for 2 different websites that were, video game oriented. Blistered Thumbs was the first one, and Tech Raptor was the second one. And it kind of seems like, as time goes on, there are more and more reasons to despise the fact that I ever entered that fucking venue in the first place. Now, quick recap. I've known Justin since before I was involved with Channel Awesome. I was writing for a website called Koku Gamer, where he worked alongside Pushing Up Roses. And, in fact, it was Roses who had encouraged me to start writing, and I'm like, yeah, why not join people I'm familiar with? So, Justin and I became friends pretty quickly, and we weren't super close. You know, we talked fairly often, but you know, it's not like I knew his deepest, darkest secrets, obviously, because my friend might have been a monster.
And I was just floored. I don't know what else to say, and this was so sad to me, and I felt like as this was coming to light, and as a lot of people were coming to realize this, here I am realizing how much I worked with Justin, and how much work I did for him, and in his name, how I ran Facebook charities for suicide prevention, and so many other people went on charity walks for suicide prevention and stuff in Justin's name. And now it just feels like, what was it all for? Did it mean nothing? Maybe it meant nothing. I don't know. I suppose if anything good came from it, it's that suicide awareness went up. And we raised money for what is legitimately a good cause, but
when I worked for Tech Raptor, I got paid, and I got paid because my articles and my videos brought in a certain, a fairly sizable audience, at least in regards to how small of a site that was. So I got money from Tech Raptor. That money was dedicated, or was sent to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline in Justin's memory. And now it feels like I did all that shit for a lie. I've said a lot of positive things about him. I've defended him quite a bit. I defended him on Twitter tonight, and I feel like an ass. The accusation is that Justin was... that Justin raped someone. And that he was grooming younger girls. And I thought it was bullshit. It sounded like bullshit. You know, Justin was the kind of guy, every time I ever talked to him, he always had really good advice for me. Even when he was in the pits of depression, he could still somehow find some way to say something uplifting to you.
You know what? I want you all to look at me. I want you all to look at me. I want you to... Because what I'm about to say is important, I think. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. And I want you all to know this. This goes out to everybody. You're not stupid. Okay? You're not stupid. Don't ever tell yourself that you are. You're important.
Always treated me like I was the most important person in the room. This is a guy who had a pretty sizable fan following, one that I can only... I don't think I'll ever match, honestly. Beyond that, there was a level of love and care and, just high praise for him as a human that you saw on the internet that's very rare. You know, how often do you see people on the internet that you would describe as pure people? You know, Justin was that kind of person that if I was going to talk to somebody, I could rely on him to be honest with me and to talk things through with me and to help me out with, whatever was bugging me at the time. He was always a reliable person I could bounce things off of, and for me that's a rare thing. Because part of the reason that I did this is because Justin gave me some very encouraging words about my abilities as a writer, as somebody who can put videos together and put together concise arguments and things like that. He was the first person to encourage me to keep going. Apparently he was a monster. And the reason I was skeptical, and I'm sorry that I'm rambling, but the reason I was so skeptical of this story is because it's, like, on first glance, I guess, or the first time you hear it, it sounds preposterous this guy who was come across as just such a pure spirit, who apparently was dedicated to his wife and just did simple, enjoyable videos about import games. Groomed kids. And I didn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, I think. The reason that I turned around so quick is because I told myself that, it's like, Micah, you've worked as a journalist. You've been published on fucking Truth Revolt, Hollywood and Toto. You put the work in, you put the research in, you live off of the hunger for information and knowledge, and why are you stopping here? So I went to somebody that I trusted, and I watched the video where Scrump Monkey and Short Fat Otaku talked with Iron Liz. And Scrump is someone I know who puts the work in. And that's why I did it. And when he said that they had talked to somebody that had posted something on Reddit about being one of the people that he had done this to, and he had said he can confirm it, and then Iron Liz, who doesn't benefit at all from, smearing Justin's name, because that's the number one question in journalism, is who benefits, and how do they benefit, and does that equation make sense? And if someone doesn't directly benefit from it, Iron Liz has a life, doesn't really need some other nonsense. This doesn't increase Liz's stock at all for talking about this. And my mind put two and two together, and I had to realize that that my friend was a monster. The main reason that I got started and I did this is because of Justin and his encouragement and his faith in me, and after his death, not wanting his words to be in vain. And now, who the fuck knows what his words are even worth? Because I don't think they're worth anything to me anymore. They're just not.
We were talking with Jane Doe, okay? And as we were talking with her, we came to the decision that because now we were also learning that there were possibly multiple victims of Justin's, to varying degrees, which went from just sexual deviancy outside of his marriage, still inappropriate, still victimizing someone, to possible sexual assault. And just, I can't believe this was even my friend. I just couldn't even believe it. So we came to this decision because it was discussed, even amongst our own chat. We were trying to say we don't want to give away the names of any other potential victim. Even within our own chat, many of us didn't know who even the second possible victim was. And we said that other person, they don't want their name involved, and they maybe don't necessarily want Justin's name put out there, because people, the internet is a cruel place, and people are just far too cruel. And so we said, okay, we won't include Justin's name, and it especially was a decision that we made because, obviously, Justin's not here to hurt anyone ever again. And so we did what we thought was best by not including the producer's name who did this. And we did sort of have a suspicion that, well, just be prepared for one day somebody is going to speak up. One day Justin's name will probably come up.
You're friends with someone, you get kicked out of this community, you exile yourself from everybody, next thing you know your friend commits suicide. And I've carried guilt for a long time about this. That maybe the reason he killed himself is because he knew he was a monster, and he didn't want to face it. Maybe my friend was a coward.
And so the doc went up, and people are horrified by the information. And first they're trying to figure out who the sexual predator was, you know. And for a long time, the majority of viewers, of fans, hadn't put two and two together. I'm sure somebody did, but then came this response back on, I believe it was the 11th, our response over on channelawesome.com. And in that response comes these chat logs, which, by the way, are not chat logs about the Jane Doe that we were talking about. The one that chatted with us that day before we dropped our document. This was an entirely separate Jane Doe who had an entirely separate set of circumstances. And so they didn't even get the context right. Channel Awesome didn't even get the context right. And so then they go, pardon me, they go and they produce, pardon me, they produce these screenshots of this conversation. And in the screenshots, they say, oh, we're going to protect and leave out the name of the producer that did this for legal reasons, but they do such a sloppy job in hiding Justin's name. You can still see the J hanging off of part of it. Oh, pardon me. And you can see the dates that they're having these conversations. So they line up directly with the time that Justin was released from his duties at Channel Awesome. And that having been said, they produce these screenshots in order to prove that, oh, we only knew about this for 3 weeks, not a full year, as if to try to disprove the claims that we were making in our document. But because of the nature of they're bringing in an entirely different Jane Doe, they're not talking about the Jane Doe that was in our document at all in the first place. They haven't proved or disproved anything. I've talked to the initial Jane Doe that was in our document since then, and we appear to be on good terms right now. She appears to be under the understanding of, you didn't know, I thought everyone knew, and it turned out you didn't know. So I'm glad for that. I'm glad that we're able to speak again and that things are starting to improve. If there's something else that I can do, I'll gladly do it to make things right, to make things better. This is all that I know how to do for now. And I suppose that's all I really have to say, and I'm sure that this was particularly rambly, and it's just really hard, because it hurts me too. They didn't disprove our doc at all. And so what has happened is that this has backfired on them. It totally blew up in their face, did not prove anything in favor of them, and outed Justin's name, which wouldn't necessarily be a problem if it weren't for the fact that victims could now be in trouble, could now be further victimized by people just looking to attack because they think it's fun, or funny, or something. Not to mention Justin's family, who was totally unaware of any of this. And man, Channel Awesome, how despicable of you to do this. There's a reason, a very specific reason why it is that we did not include names. And you don't care. You don't care. You just want to cover yourselves, and you'll put anyone else in the line of fire, including victims of sexual assault, in order to further your agenda and call 20 to 40 people liars. And it didn't even matter. It didn't even help you. You despicable people. What a horrible thing to do. Now, the victims are kind of, to a point, any victim, I think, is going to feel, after so many years, they're going to feel a modicum of relief that their stories have been heard, and that people are beginning to believe them. And for that reason, I'm glad that they're getting that right now, because that is what I have heard, that is the impression that I've gotten. However, now they're being discovered because people are just putting a whole bunch of scenarios together, and now they're being attacked.
I said so many fucking kind words. Now I don't know what to think. Now I almost want to go piss on his fucking grave.
One thing I didn't get to address in my last video on jewario was the fallout from the initial situation. And if my comment section would tell you anything, it's that there has been a lot of different reactions to all this information. But I'm not here to talk about some of Justin's more Stockholm-ridden fans. No. I'm here to talk about the reaction of those that knew Justin. And to me, I think that's the most interesting in this. From the comments that they'll leave on the change the channel videos or drop in my DMs, it seems like everyone is still reacting to this.
As someone who was a friend of Justin's, it wasn't easy listening to your live stream on the revelations regarding him. Having said that, what he did was wrong, and I agree with a lot of the opinions you guys shared during that stream. And friend or not, I simply cannot defend his actions under any circumstances. I'll always remember him as a friend, but I will not deny or defend his actions. He was wrong. I am sorry to the victims for what he did to you, and I hope all parties involved get the closure they need. I wish I knew what I know now sooner, because in hindsight, it makes those of us who did tributes to Justin look foolish.
Now, in one of my last streams, someone referred to him as the Chris Benoit of Channel Awesome. And my god, that man or woman, whichever they may be, must have been looking directly into a crystal ball as they said it. Because much like Chris Benoit, a well-known and somewhat beloved professional wrestler who murdered his wife and son, he was completely expunged from history, forgotten in his own line of work.
So now, I do have to bring up, once again, to come back to the topic of the work that myself and my family and my friends worked on, either with Justin or in Justin's name. Man, do I wish someone had told me. I can only be so mad at any other outsider who had this information and didn't tell me. There's a very visceral part of me that is like, why didn't somebody tell me? I would have not made Farewell Fami Kamen Rider if I had known. Why would I have done that? What a horrible thing to do, to put somebody on a pedestal who is the complete opposite type of person to be put on a pedestal. Why would I knowingly do that? That's just horrible. So part of me is mad that in all that time, when we're working on this movie and we're announcing, hey, we're thinking of doing this movie in tribute to our friend, nobody stopped and said, Kaylin, maybe you might want to think twice about making this movie, because there's something you should know. Projects that I worked on, what is it even all for? And some people, some of the other producers, are now starting to take down their videos that involved Justin, or in some cases, they're starting to replace his cameo appearances with other people and then re-upload them. In the case of, for example, Farewell Fami Kamen Rider, this is an entire 2-hour movie that took 6 months out of so many people's lives in order to produce. And it's all dedicated to Justin. And so what do? What are my options? Tear down this movie? let it stay as is. I feel like none of these options are especially good options or are the right options. For the time being, I've come to this particular decision. For right now, it will remain up for historical purposes. However, I have added a disclaimer in the video description saying that during the time of the filming we didn't know, and now we do. And it no longer reflects the views after we learned, our views after we learned that information. And so to just take it with that historical lens. And furthermore, comments have been disabled, and I have never disabled comments on a single video I've ever released. I disabled comments on that. I disabled comments on one other crossover video that Justin and I made 6 years ago. And I'll be disabling comments on this video. And again, I've never disabled comments before. So why am I choosing to leave up Farewell Fami Common Writer? I think that's really important to understand. So I mentioned before, 1, leave it for historical purposes. And you know, there are a lot of other examples within media that have chosen to do this. For example, old, pretty racist Tom and Jerry cartoons. Or other cartoons that were animated by Warner Brothers, for example. They leave up disclaimers when they re-air any of these or put them on DVD that states these are a symbol of their time period and remain unaltered for you to understand what it is we as a nation were thinking and where we were as a nation at that point in our nation's history. Similarly, I think that is important to see. However, distancing ourselves from who Jewario, who Justin Carmichael was at the same time, it is important to understand that both of those things exist. Furthermore, because Justin was not there for any of this, while we tried our best to retain a lot of Justin's original intent with the movie, he was not there to direct, to dictate, and I'm certain there's just tons of threads that we didn't get to cover that he wanted to do. In a way that makes it kind of ours, despite the super sad fact that it involves and is completely centralized around Justin. What does it mean? What does it even mean anymore? The entire topic of our 2-hour movie, which we spent 6 months of our lives on, it's pointless. It seems totally pointless. What I would like is for it to be able to be viewed as a piece of artistic work, transitive work, by so many other people that were not involved in what Justin did and didn't even know about it. At the same time, obviously we can't say that what Justin did was okay. Thus, the movie remains up, but we leave a disclaimer there on the movie saying it doesn't reflect our views anymore. It is totally changed, and comments are now disabled. And I'm so sorry that any of this has even happened in the first place. I don't know what else to say. I'm shocked, and I'm appalled, and I'm so hurt because my friend Justin, he was telling other people other things about the nature of why it was he was let go from Channel Awesome. And in some cases, he said it was his own separation. That he left, not that he was fired. He told people different things. If the work that I or anyone else who worked on our projects together, if our work ever hurt anyone by existing, I'm so sorry that we did that to you. I'm so sorry. I can only hope that we can start to make steps to make it right, to make it better.
People, both fans and friends, have taken down their tributes to him. Both Linkara and Sage have removed respective jewario hats from their sets. Phaelus has actually taken to re-uploading his old videos that included jewario, with him edited out of the content entirely. Some producers are apparently re-editing their videos using other producers in place of Justin. And honestly, removing someone from a video's continuity, especially when it's been in the public view for an extended amount of time, I don't know, I just think it's an overall bad idea. I get the need and desire to not honor a monster, but you're not honoring him if it's already a part of pre-existing material. At that point, it just exists for historical purposes. Changing your content years later just feels very, it feels very George Lucas-y, doesn't it? You can't rewrite history. And by hiding your original content, it's only going to make people flock to it more. Because it's not the presence of this man that's vile, it's his actions. Hollywood movies are filled up with plenty of really awful or otherwise shitty people. No one went back and touched up those things. You know, no one went back and re-edited all of Hitchcock's movies because he was an overly abusive cunt. No one takes R. Kelly off his own tracks because he's a pedophile and a potential sex trafficker. Video coming soon. No one cut Jar Jar out of the prequels because he looked like the hobgoblin with syphilis. The point is, disgusting and awful people are nothing new in media. We're all exposed, if not overly exposed to them. And we should just learn to remove artist from art. I like a couple Gary Glitter tracks. I've made my thoughts on him very clear. The two don't coincide. I like Kanye West music. I fucking hate Kanye West. You gotta separate the two. However, in that same right, I can't blame the creators and what they choose to do with their own content. It's kind of their right.
I can't believe he's actually dead. My hero, jewario. He's actually dead. He's dead. I can't believe it. He's dead. He's in hell. I can't believe it. Fuck you.
So thank y'all for joining me. And guys, before you go, look at me. I want you to really look at me here. 'Cause I've been thinking long and hard about this. And what I'm about to say, it's important. Just want you to know, you're not stupid. You're not. You're fucking retarded. See you in the next one.
There ain't no stopping us now, we celebrate on the floor. Top down, we're ready to go. To all the people across every nation, turn it up and give me some more. Woo! There ain't no stopping us now, we celebrate on the floor. Top down, we're ready to go. To all the people across every nation, turn it up and give me some more. There ain't no stopping, there ain't no way, turn it up, no stopping us
With such a young industry like online video, many often forget that all of our favorite online personalities are only human. So today, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about 5 YouTubers that are no longer with us. Justin Carmichael had a very early retro gaming channel in the YouTube space, with it starting his online persona of jewario all the way back in 2007. This made it even more disheartening when in early 2014 his wife let his viewers know that after a long battle with depression he ended his life.
You might want to change that. Might be time to change that.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
I can already imagine the comment section running wild, telling me that I'm milking this and somehow getting more offended with me talking about all this than the actual actions that take place in the story. People are going to tell me that I don't care and I'm just doing this for money. People will bring up that jewario killed himself and I should give him a break. Some of my comment section has told me there's no hard evidence. All we're hearing is stories and fabrications. People will tell me that jewario is an innocent man. And I believe that the direct quote from one of my comment section is, "These women just have whore's remorse." And wow, that is the sound of an incel if I've ever heard one in my life. I get comments on how he's innocent until proven guilty and how I'm a fool for just believing any old story that I hear. Except I don't. Let me share a true story with you. When I was younger, I had a friend, and that friend had a girlfriend. And she told me and my friend that she was gang raped. Now, being 15 at the time, I immediately believed her because who the fuck would lie about something that horrific? And upon getting the chance to confront her alleged rapists, she stopped me, pulled me aside, and admitted to me that she made the whole thing up. Because one of those fake rapists was in actuality an ex-boyfriend who had scorned her. And not only that, but one of her alleged rapists would actually later come out to be a gay man, so man, I would have really been barking up the wrong pervert tree. I understand that people are fucked up. I get that people do make false allegations. It sucks. And it ruins reputations unjustly. It destroys lives, and you know what? The bigger issue here is that it also puts this stigma on every actual victim. I'm not just listening to a story. I'm listening to multiple accounts from victims, from friends, from coworkers and colleagues of Justin's. I'm listening to all of it, and it's painting a pretty unflattering but factual picture. Of course, because I'm defending alleged rape victims, to some, I'm a white knight. And well, if my need for suntan lotion tells me anything at all, it's that you're half right. Unfortunately, you're also half wrong, and completely inept. Let's just attempt to ground your delusions in the realm of reality here. While you yourself aren't convinced, let me assure you that Channel Awesome sure was, and promptly got rid of his ass ASAP. Justin was a seemingly wholesome, loving, family-friendly man who managed to make a connection with those who watched him. You know, in a lot of ways, I would say he was kind of like Bill Cosby. Video coming soon. And much like Bill Cosby, a man who is now now found guilty, actually, since I wrote the script, now found guilty of drugging and raping more women than I can possibly count, you see that there's not a whole lot of evidence beyond mountains of victim testimonials coming forward. And he, both in the court of public opinion and, actual courts, has been found guilty. And much like Bill Cosby's victims, a lot of these stories are old news. Stories that have been shared, experiences that have already been exclaimed. So, just a quick reminder, just because it's news to you, doesn't mean it's news to everyone. A lot of people question why they're just hearing about these allegations now. Keep in mind, Channel Awesome knew about them and sat on that information for years. This isn't new. This isn't somebody trying to catch on to the Me Too trend for a hashtag. No, this is something that they knew about for years. The question of Why didn't they tell somebody? They did, almost immediately. You're just hearing about it now. Now I also get this comment a lot. Why wouldn't these people come forward? Why wouldn't these victims, if they were victimized, tell somebody? Why wouldn't they go to the police? Well, simply because there's an overwhelming feeling of shame, disgust, and overall disbelief that you'd been violated. Especially if it was by someone that you trusted. Most rape victims actually don't come forward, at least not to law enforcement, initially. Both out of fear and also out of a desire to move past the horrific experience. I also remember reading in the comment section, "I'm so tired of victims playing hero." Yeah, me too, right? Why couldn't they just stay victims and be victimized all their life? Screw them for standing up for themselves and trying to get a sense of stability, right? And now here's the big one. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence in this rape case? Let me tell you like this. Rape is something that is unfortunately very hard to prove. However, when you look at these types of situations, what you need to think to yourself is, what does anybody have to gain? And in this situation, overwhelmingly, everybody who's coming forward has absolutely nothing. I mean, if anything, a lot of these people have had their credibility attacked for coming forward about these events. Why won't they come forward? Well, look at the way that people are acting. I mean, could you imagine this a couple years ago when jewario first ended his life? It's important to realize that there is absolutely nothing for anybody talking about this situation to gain from a lie. It's an accepted fact on both sides of the field to Channel Awesome. Now keep in mind that there's two groups of people in disagreement about everything that went on in this company, from their treatment behind the scenes, to various scenarios that played out, to on-set bullshit, everything. There's a complete disagreement with everything. Except for these grooming and rape accusations, which both sides, people who were with Channel Awesome, people who left Channel Awesome, both sides have simultaneously said, this is fact, this is true. Now, think to yourself, and try to take emotion out of it and think entirely logically here. Why would so many people with absolutely nothing to gain lie? Why would legal enemies, current strangers, and those who knew and respected this man all come together to pass off this elaborate lie that would destroy all the goodwill he'd built up with the YouTube community? If you're still in denial because this information is only coming to light 5 years after his passing, let me remind you of a man named Sir Jimmy Savile. He was a man knighted, a public figure in the UK that was beloved, and he'd gone to the grave a good man. Only for, mere days after his tombstone was resurrected, for information to circulate that he'd molested somewhere between 200 and 300 women and children in his lifetime. Imagine that. 200 victims staying silent.
Frat guys basically groom drunk chicks. Stockholm Syndrome is partly due to grooming by the captor. So adults can be groomed. It is not that just something that happens to kids. You learn this while training to be foster parents. So to your guys who said grooming only happens to little kids, the 50 Shades movies are about an adult getting groomed.
Honestly, a big part of me feels like I should have kept this in the last video instead of making 3 fucking videos on this guy, but 45 apiece is really my maximum video length, so I apologize for that. So this is it for me. We close the book here on jewario once and for all, at least for this channel, and we move forward into closing the book on Channel Awesome. And by my estimate, we only have 2 videos left. So let's end this right. And let's get back to making shitty jokes on shitty people. And what better way to get in the mood for that than after the credits fan mail? Stick around. how much longer are you gonna bitch about these cunts for? Just wondering. Like, how much time can you devote to a dead rapist and a channel that, despite all its controversies, still has 100,000 times your subscriber base? Let's call a spade a spade. All you fucking pussies, tumblerinas, and internet fags, not gay people. You know, fag for me means annoying crybaby pussy. On YouTube, just desperately trying to get views and subs off the downfall of a shitty company and the handling of its former contributors. None of you give a fuck about the rape victims. None of you care about Phaelus, Lupa, Nostalgia Chick, Todd, or any of the others that left all the years ago. You guys just want views. It's arguably as pitiful as the management at Channel Awesome. How long will I continue to bitch at these cunts for? Until I've covered everything from the document. That's kind of the point of the series. Now, you claim that I have no respect for the victims of those at Channel Awesome, yet I've spoken to them, and before and after making these videos, they're in support of me doing these. I've had access to the document before the public did because of one of the producers. I made the series with their blessing, some of which are either subbed or are following me. I've spoken to Holly multiple times, and through her even interacted with one of the victims live on stream. The only person making this about anything other than what it is you, and those like you. What the fuck does their success or sub rate have to do with any of this shit? I love that, by the way. I really do. That, like, anybody could do the most awful thing in the world, and then if you talk about it, they're gonna be like, well, it's just because you're jealous. Let's be real. It's because you're jealous of them, and completely bypassing the fact that, you know, there are victims in all of this, and people have been hurt. But yeah, no, you're right. I just want views. Hey, spoiler alert, if you actually look back at my old videos, talking about sexual predators is nothing new to this channel. So, just kind of something that I've been doing here. Just because, and once again, this is a perfect example of just because it's news to you doesn't mean it's news to everyone else. And of course, he was looking stupid here, so he decided to delete his comment. Luckily, I screen capped it before he could do so. But it didn't stop him from then reposting basically his same response over again and then claiming that I deleted the comments. And you know what the best thing is that I know for a fact he's gonna comment 4 or 5 times on this video too. Fuck you guys. This YouTube did a lot for the community. And you all just trying to ruin his name. Well, I'm not gonna stand for it. Rest in peace.
You're stupid.
Old news, and nobody changed the channel. You adorable kids. I guess you assume that YouTube analytics are a part of this Channel Awesome conspiracy, huh? You suck, your channel sucks, change the channel. Oh, he said it! He said it! He said the thing! He said the name! Oh, this guy! I hate how victims betray themselves as heroes. This is how I see the whole hashtag change the channel movement. Instead of changing things back, then these cucks continue to stay with Channel Awesome for the fame. These content creators got what was coming to them. Go ahead and try to comment Mars Girl or Skewers Lupa's videos on that matter. Spoiler alert, you can't because they conveniently disabled comments for some reason. Oh yeah, you know what, maybe it might have something to do with not wanting to be harassed by a bunch of assholes who think that they're entitled to more information than they are. Also, people who believe that they're closer to the situation than those who have actually experienced it. So, maybe that has something to do with it. I also like that comment at the beginning. I hate how victims betray themselves as heroes. Yeah, me too, man. Why the fuck can't they just continue to be victims their whole life? Like, why can't they go through life feeling victimized instead of trying to find a sense of stability? Fuck them, am I right? God, I tell you, and I do mean this. I know I call you guys VTards, so it can get confusing. But obviously, if this fan mail at the end has told me anything at all, it's that I truly do have the greatest fans.
Over the past decade, one of the most popular shows on the entire internet has been the Nostalgia Critic.
Oh, good. This is like my favorite show to shit on.
To expose Channel Awesome, including Doug Walker, of their mistreatment of smaller partners on the website from years past. This included them making a 69-page long document citing every single little grievance smaller creators who were on Channel Awesome had. Outside of the anniversary movies, no contracts were involved. The only people paid were the people involved with the Chicago crew. Okay, and how is this a point against them?
Good point, all good points. Now, if only he could stop intentionally skipping past these really damning accusations and, like, bringing up the more petty ones.
First, Doug Walker got special treatment. He was the biggest person on the entire site. And I like how you add that little jab about the Disney December videos being bad, as if that has to do with anything.
Someone's gunning for a spot on Channel Awesome. It's alright, I do hear that they have openings. Can I just say, y'all been targeting Mark Zuckerberg for how long, but nobody looks and points a finger at the gamer from Mars? Should have been called the game from Uranus. Cause your head's up your...
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
You know what the greatest irony of all of this is that I promised myself I wasn't going to end up 7 episodes deep into this bullshit, and here I am, 7 episodes deep in this bullshit. Life's funny sometimes. And now I've fallen down this rabbit hole, and now I'm in the worst parts of Wonderland. You know, the Lewis Carroll-y parts of Wonderland. Video coming soon. And I know a lot of you have been asking me, how long is this series gonna continue?
Someone asked me about Doug on Twitter. And so, for the first time in a while, I said something. I said, look, he treated us awfully. I don't like him. And I started talking about some of the stuff that they'd done. And I didn't expect anything to come from this. But I think at this point in time, it was just the right time for a lot of other people to air their grievances. So after I posted this, Pushing Up Roses, Sarah said something. And then Mars Girl said something, Kaylin said something, and then Lewis said something.
A point I'd made earlier in one of my jewario memorial services, and yes, that is memorial. The theory began floating around that perhaps Channel Awesome higher-ups were using jewario as a diversion, as their sacrificial lamb, if you will, their scapegoat to divert heat and otherwise negative online attention away from themselves and towards someone seemingly more deserving. Now, this doesn't mean Justin's innocent, but it would mean that they ousted him intentionally. Think of it as the symbolic kiss of Judas.
And with that document, Channel Awesome released, we're going to debunk these accusations. And the first one they really did was there was a Jane Doe that said that they had been groomed by Justin. And, they didn't say it specifically. Channel Awesome basically blurred out the name, but they left the J in the front. And they also matched it up. They left the time stamps. So anybody with half a brain could figure out who it was and when Justin was fired.
However, after talking with Iron Liz on another one of my streams, keeping in mind that she actually knew and interacted with the people in question, it would seem that the act was most likely one of stupidity and not one of malicious deception. Do you believe, or do you think that the way that that document came out and they only revealed the J and they revealed the time and the date when the person was let go,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that that was kind of put out, like they used him as a sacrificial lamb, like almost as a scapegoat, like, yeah, we fucked up, but like, that's what this guy did?
See, I guess I can see that idea, but I'm also reminded of the phrase, don't attribute to malice what can be explained by stupidity. Because it wasn't, number one, it wasn't a refute of the grooming accusation. That was somebody entirely different from the person, who contributed to him getting fired. They were two separate things. I think that it would have gone over for them better if they just never addressed it at all. Because keep in mind, they could have cherry-picked the things that they talked about, but they made a point of answering that one. So I don't know why they just didn't ignore it, because that was kind of the one thing that sort of sunk everything.
And I've been assured that my theory has Channel Awesome doing a lot of thinking, which for them, let's face it, would be a rarity. And if you need further proof of that statement, allow me to remind you, these were the brilliant minds behind such creative endeavors such as Bar Fiesta, Demo Reel, Pop Quiz Hotshot, I don't even know, and all of the Channel Awesome specials. So, and after sharing that information, she also shared what I believe to be the greatest Brad impression that I've heard in my time.
When we first got, like we were at the bar or whatever, he loves his Siamese cat Lloyd, and he has pictures of it on his phone and whatnot, and he's like, "Hey, check out my cat Lloyd." And it's like this great picture of it. Like, "Oh, that's great. Hey, can I have a picture?" "Yeah, you could have a picture of Lloyd. He's a great cat."
I mean, that's not really relevant here, but that's the end of my sentence.
I want to talk about the situation with Justin because I kind of want to weigh in on that. I think a lot of people have already kind of got into Channel Awesome and what they've done. I'm not sure if we'll ever get the full picture, not unless people decide to pursue legal action. One of the main issues on the document was the sexual assault survivor, I guess. Generally, the term that I was trying to use was survivor, not victim. I was also volunteering at a sexual assault helpline called the Aurora Center. So the Aurora Center, I did that for about 18 months, and I'm crisis counselor certified. Or a friend of mine approached me and say, there's an individual who had been raped. It's not minced words, they had been raped. And they want to speak to you because they don't know what to do. I still had something of a reputation that I was doing this stuff. So I said, sure, I'll talk to this individual. And based upon my experience volunteering at the Sexual Assault Center and based upon the education that I had, I was 98% certain they were telling the truth. And the reason I give 2% is because I could be wrong. Certainly I could be wrong, but I don't think I was. They told me this, and Justin was my friend. I would count him at that point as a friend, and I know he was a friend for a lot of people. And so I basically told this person, okay, I believe you, and here's what you might want to pursue doing. I get the feeling there's a lot of ugly with this company that I'm not aware of. I know that speaking with Holly, who is the former human resources person there, there's potential other things going on behind the scenes, and again, that's not something I can really go into. I thought for sure when they had me sign the contract after my knee had been kicked in that the only way to see those files would be to get a subpoena and to show that they put forward such an egregious document that there's no way that it would even hold up under court. I spoke with a colleague of his, and both of us, it turns out, knew different sexual assault survivors. So I knew one, he knew another. There was at least an example of a third person, and then there was the grooming person. I don't know how many victims Justin pursued or survivors that exist out there. I don't know the number, but it's evident that this is something that might be fairly extensive. And it might have also taken place before he became a part of the website. Based on everything that I know, I'm confident, extraordinarily confident that this happened. And what needs to be done is for the survivors to be able to get closure from this. Because when Justin, and I mentioned this, when Justin died through suicide, he became martyred. You couldn't say a bad word about it because suicide is tragic, and it absolutely was tragic the way that he died. But it doesn't change the person that you were. It doesn't change the actions that you did. And his own life makes it now that he can never atone for what he did. He can never own up for it. And I don't know if, and maybe that would have been jail time. Maybe that would have been more than just saying you're sorry. I'm taking this back from Justin. You're not stupid. Okay, you're not stupid. A lot of people right now are feeling stupid but don't feel that way. You didn't know. You only knew the things that you knew. And people like me had to stay silent because we had to support the survivors, but now that it's out, the truth will set you free. So, that's all I've got, and thanks for watching, thanks for stopping by, and take care of yourselves, folks. Bye.
You probably noticed from the things that I've written about this that I have a huge problem, not just with Mike Machad, but with Rob Walker and with Doug Walker, because they are complicit in this. And I know a lot of people want to believe that they're not involved or that they don't know about this stuff because they make videos that they like and they are nice in the videos. And they're not monsters all the time. They were nice to me at times. But there were times when they said some really hurtful things and did some hurtful things. And they were part of decisions that affected us. There was a very specific incident when I came to Chicago to film the crossover for A Talking Cat with Doug. And while I was there, I shot his talk show, Shut Up and Talk. And when I was on that set, Mike Machad waited until everyone else left and cornered me and aggressively asked me why I had so many mid-rolls on my videos. And he was saying that it was causing people to turn on ad block, and he'd left up comments that were mean as a hint to me, instead of just coming to me about it. And whatever you want to say about the mid-rolls, the way that he handled this was really just atrocious, and it made me really uncomfortable. And I cried in the bathroom in the studio because I was so upset over this. And the only person around afterwards was Doug. So I came to Doug and I told him what happened. And he said that he would look into it. And the next thing that happened was he and Machad, Doug was in this call, called me up to tell me that they were limiting the mid-rolls. They were deciding what we were going to do with our videos. And the things that Machad did were never addressed. And in the document, you can see other things where they were involved. So it's not just this. So all of them are complicit in this. And if you read the document, you'll see that about 99% of the problems are from Mike Machad. He's a terrible manager, and he's a bully and a misogynist, and he just should not be in this position of power. There was this long history of not communicating with us, bullying us, patronizing us, not caring about their producers, and there's lots of serious allegations in this document. Some of them are less serious than others, but all of them are legitimate grievances, and they center around primarily Mike Machad, who is the CEO of the company, and Doug and Rob Walker.
And suddenly...
You look like a forgotten Ninja Turtle. You look like Dr. Evil's dick. You look like a live-action Humpty Dumpty. You look like every one of your sexual encounters has ended in regret. You could quite possibly be the least likable human being on the face of the planet. And that's including me. I'm still here. Just think that Mike Ellis has a bunch of unwanted, unwarranted, continual sexual advances, and yet people still will defend him. Jewario raped a chick, and people still defend him. No one has defended you. Not one. No one has ever said, "Hey, listen, you're wrong. Mike's a good." No one. It's like planet Earth has come to a consensus opinion that you as a human just suck. If you're a fan of the Nostalgia Critic, then there's a good chance that you're familiar with his brother Rob. He's that one guy who plays every character that's not Doug. Formerly in the shadows, not with Todd, Rob has made his way front and center over the years, becoming more and more of an on-screen presence alongside his brother. But involving himself in his brother's work has proven to be, let's say, a bit challenging for both. Some would even say that there's a bit of a sibling rivalry brewing. Those that have worked with the Walkers note that they bitch and bicker like an old married couple.
This movie sucked! It sucked! This movie fucking sucked! Everybody applauded at the end because they loved Jungle Book and Cinderella, and we thought that sucked! It sucked! It sucked! Emma Watson can't sing! The beats look like CG shit because it sucked! It sucked! It's a terrible movie! It's dumb and pointless! It is such shit! Just go and see the original classic! Knock knock!
Who's there?
This movie fucking sucked! It sucked.
Things such as where someone needs to be standing during a shot have led to all-out shouting matches between the two walkers. You know, that could give the wrong impression. So from now on, I will exclusively refer to them as Rob and Doug. Or alternatively, Doug 1 and Doug 2. Where was I? Oh yeah, it seems like it's not only movies that these two can't agree on, whether it be somebody else's or their own. Well, it's just about everything, if you're willing to believe some. The accounts that have been described of Rob makes him seem like the type of guy who grew up without friends himself, but hung around his younger brother so that he could boss him and his few friends around. Like, he was the type of guy who grew up without friends and took that out on his younger brother and his group of friends. The type of person who was only around, you know, because of association. We're talking about a real Angelica Pickles kind of situation. Yeah, and you know how everybody felt about her. Even the people who made that character hated that bitch. I said it. That's right. I'm not beyond making fun of fictional 8-year-old girls, alright? That's right. Everybody here is a target. And we actually have an artist re-rendering of what Doug and Rob's childhood might have looked like. Let's take a look.
Hey, clobbering time.
I tell you, the people that work on this channel, all one of me, truly, they deserve a raise. A lot of people have referred to Rob as a bit of a bully. This was actually something I made sure that I clarified, and yes, apparently it's a common sentiment.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Rob is the type of guy who likes to throw his weight around. He's very commanding of those he works with, and also very dismissive when they tell him such. After Holly's unfortunate firing for a time being, Rob took over as the interim HR person, listening and trying to take on all problems and complaints. Instead of trying to find solutions, he'd simply wrote off his air-quote employees' complaints as nothing more than them bitching or otherwise acting like babies. Fucking Angelica Pickles, motherfucker. My guess is that much like the rest of Channel Awesome not knowing what Mashaw does, he didn't really know what Holly did before assuming her position. But then again, this is a guy who doesn't even know when he's talking to a producer or just somebody asking him for an interview. From what I've heard, it seemed like he really thinks he's beyond the channel, but not beyond the revenue he could make from it. The only way anyone could ever mistake you for a 10 is if you and your brother were walking down the street side by side. You look pale. Maybe you should step out of your brother's shadow long enough to try to get a tan. You look like a fatter, less talented Doug. When you smile, it looks like somebody just knuckle-busted your anal cavity. You resemble an eel. Guys, if this roast is lacking, you can blame it on my vacation from these rounds. I have some serious roast rust. Also, I'm sorry, I intended on being meaner, but I don't know if it's warranted, granted, with everything else we know now. I mean, he's a bossy, pompous prick, but I think that really just covers it, you know? And according to people who still watch Channel Awesome, that doesn't really come off as a surprise. Black Friend Alan was the one who mentioned to me that you could pretty much see all this on display in their behind-the-scenes features. Hell, even Mr. Medicare, or as I've come to know him, the Simpsons of YouTube.
Simpsons did it! Simpsons did it!
Even Medicare mentioned in his video series that Rob has been described as a bit of a bully. So I guess this is just another secondhand confirmation. Do I think Rob is the worst person at Channel Awesome? No. Do I think he contributed to making the shitty environment even more shitty? I mean, I think that goes without saying.
One of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen about this whole thing is that we were paid employees, and we weren't. We did it all for free. It was a symbiotic relationship. You know, they would give us exposure, and we would give them traffic for our videos, and they would get ad revenue from people who clicked on our videos on the site.
I was with them between probably 2009 to 2011 or so when I was dating Linkara. I was also on the site for about 6 months or so, and back in my heyday, I did tabletop role-playing game reviews. So I reviewed Dungeons and Dragons wasn't one of them, but World of Darkness and BattleTech and things like that. So I was mostly, though, with Lewis's stuff. We were dating at the time, and so I would assist him with his videos and do his plot lines and stories and things like that. Well, as it turned out too, I also worked on Suburban Nights, So in 2010, I think, Channel Awesome put together their yearly anniversary movie, and they invited everybody down to Chicago. But Lewis at the time didn't have a vehicle and didn't drive, so they asked me, hey, do you want to come down and kind of help out a little bit? Maybe be a production assistant, and you would just drive your vehicle down there, and we'll put you up in the hotel with Lewis. I said, great. So that would save them some money to do that, and so what ended up happening is I drove down there for about 8 hours or so. So not only was I driving down there, but I also ended up having my vehicle be used for the production. So I'd shuttle people around. They had a couple vans that they used, and they just weren't enough. So my vehicle kind of got roped into it, and as well as props that were not being used for production, they would go into that vehicle to get stored.
There was at least an illusion that they cared about the producers there. There were problems like a lot of websites have, or a lot of businesses have. It comes with the territory. So you expect that these things will smooth out over time, and instead they just got worse.
I also ended up working probably from about 6 in the morning. You had to be down in the lobby at 6 a.m. to sometimes 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. So literally the entire day and then some. And really the only time you really got to eat was sometimes in the morning, sometimes for lunch. If they were doing dinner, which was hit or miss, honestly, then they would feed you at that point. But I was not the talent. That was something that was said very early in the production, where I think it was like the first day or second day I asked if I could get a coffee, and they said, no, that's for the talent, and you're not the talent. And that was funny too, because later on in the production I changed over. I played Cloak 2, so I was an actress in that. And even at that point, when I was still wearing the costume, I was still driving with my vehicle, doing errands and things. I got hurt on site. They had me sign a waiver saying that they weren't responsible for any injuries before it, and then all footage that they took of me as Cloak 2 was essentially theirs. So, yeah, that was lousy.
We did it all for free. This includes the anniversaries. We did those for free. We were paid to fly out, but we were not given any compensation. And in fact, in the contracts, which was the only thing we had contracts for, we were told we had to give over our crossovers to them to help recoup costs. So not only were we doing this movie for free, we were taking time out of our work to make these videos for them. We were taking time out of our rest during the production to film them. And Mike still told us constantly how great it was that he never took a cut of our revenue from our videos. They got money from us embedding our videos on their site, not hosting them, embedding them. And he thought that it was so generous of them not to take a cut of our money. Let me just reiterate about the anniversaries. We did not make any money off of the DVDs. That was all them. In fact, they didn't give us the DVDs in some cases.
I've had to sit through the contents of those DVDs several times over in making the series. And honestly, Lupa, you're better off. You know, like, just... you're better off. Before I go, I actually have an artist reimagining of the first time that I watched those specials.
This movie sucked! It sucked! This movie fucking sucked! Everybody applauded at the end! It sucked! It sucked because it sucked! It sucked! It's a terrible movie! It's dumb and pointless! It is such shit!
Hey, I'm surprised you made it this far. Not just in this video, but in this series. Because let's be honest, it's been going on for a little bit. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? But alas, all good things must come to an end. And vice versa, so do shitty ones. Just ask Channel Awesome. We learned a lot, we had some fun along the way, but now this train is coming up to its last stop. In the next installment, unless Channel Awesome somehow finds a way, finds a miraculous way to fuck up to the point where I need to make another video. Let's hope I don't. Then the next installment will be the last installment in the Change the Channel series, and we can finally move on to other awful people doing awful things. So guys, if you like the words that came out of my mouth hole, don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you have a free moment of time and a free $1 to spare, then head over to my Patreon. With that being said, thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you VTards in the next one. I know what you're thinking. Why the gamer from Mars hate? To which I respond, why the gamer from Mars love? He's bland, he's boring, he's monotone, he has no energy, he lacks all in any charisma. I mean, he's basically everything that I was accused of being in my Wrestling with Regret crossover. I mean, this guy is practically the human physical embodiment of oatmeal. And on top of it, his video completely dodges the more serious accusations to call out what he considers more petty bullshit. Which, by the way, isn't even meant to be an attack on Channel Awesome. It was a bunch of producers describing some of their grievances, and when they're explaining small minor things in the article, they're actually using the bullet points to set up the atmosphere of what it was like working there, and also to give answers to some of the questions that their fans had. Want to thank y'all for joining me again, and just remember that we are now one step closer to finishing this Channel Awesome series, one step closer to putting this whole thing to rest, which means only one thing: mass unsubscriptions. I kid. We do have a couple other things I want to cover. I mean, there's been a crossover with Jamie Deluxe in the works. There's been a crossover with the Hibiki TMD. I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about when we get past this series. I mean, we have that Smallville sex cult. That's going to be interesting, right? We got an R. Kelly retrospective, and we're not talking about his career. We're going to talk about a rapper who rocks a set of Skittles as grills. And we have a full month of videos that have not been scheduled properly because of the Channel Awesome series. So there's going to be a lot. You know, also in a couple of my upcoming videos, you might notice a few minor discrepancies. You might say to yourself, V, why does it say your sub count in these videos is at 1,000 and you're currently at 10K? And that's because when I was making them, that's where it was. There's a history lesson none of you asked for. You wanted something fun at the end, so gotta think fast.
Critic?
Who?
Nostalgia Critic, is this your car out here?
Just a sec.
Could you open the door, please?
Yeah, just a sec. Just a sec.
Ready to make some enemies? Let's, you know what? We're burning this bridge!
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
Hey there, VTards. I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and we finally made it. We made it to the last video. After promising I wasn't gonna get 7 episodes deep, we have now made it to 8.
V! Stop! You don't have to do this!
Black Friend Alan?
Yes, Black Friend Alan. Not just your Black Friend, but everybody's Black Friend. Thank God I got here in time.
But you're not here.
That's not the point. You don't have to do this. Many other people have already reviewed Channel Awesome. You can stop.
No, Alan, don't you see? I must do it. I must. Otherwise, it could be the end of the world as we know it.
What? How?
I don't know. Plot hole.
Well, that's a lazy plot device. And also a tie-in to start the review.
I know, right? Like, totally unnecessary and counterproductive to what we're doing. I'm glad we had this conversation. Maybe other people should have too.
Kinda makes you think. Enjoy the show, folks.
So what's left of the document? Well, pretty much nothing. I think that we've covered the more major events, and even some of the minor ones. Yes, I'm aware it's not a word what I just said. We've heard first and second hand accounts from those involved with Channel Awesome. I've delivered information straight from several producers' mouths, or, well, more accurately, fingertips, some of which who requested anonymity, and others who have not. Yes, I know that what I just said is not a word. We've successfully covered in detail all of the more important aspects from the document, and we've even touched on a few subjects that the document didn't fully cover. We've had roast rounds, we told jokes, we read through all the information in a digestible manner, I would like to think, and now all that's left is to take a look at the fallout of Channel Awesome.
There was a mass exodus of producers from the site. Right now, I think they have 13 people left, and in March, they had 40.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out.
That is a lot of people.
I recall someone telling me around the second or maybe third episode of the Change the Channel series that Channel Awesome was doing better than ever, and that this document would hardly even have an effect on them. Well, man, does it suck being that guy. Having to leave your safe space of Channel Awesome fanfiction to immerse yourself into a reality that is the destruction of said channel. Sure, their sub count has dropped, not under the 1 mil mark, but significantly dropped a bit. But the real downfall of the channel lies within its producers and the content creators. Less than 2 months ago, the channel had no less than 40 producers. And with each passing week of this document being released, hell, almost within each passing hour at a certain point in time, more and more people began to drop from the site. While Channel Awesome has pretty much only acknowledged this on their homepage by removing the exiting producers, no official statement from them has been made on these exits. How bad has it got? Well, according to some, both Doug and Rob Walker have walked away from Channel Awesome. While there's nothing entirely concrete, as once again they still haven't put out a statement, their actions are quite telling of the future. Rob posted a picture of the Jedi tree burning to Twitter before deactivating his account. Doug has changed his Facebook working status to have worked, past tense, in Channel Awesome. Malcolm's corrected people on Twitter while saying that he doesn't work for Channel Awesome, but both he and Tamara will continue to work for the Nostalgia Critic. Brad Jones, who's been their longest supporter in this, I can't even fathom how many times he must have been asked when he's leaving this brand, has removed most of his mentions of them off his social media. However, there have been continual uploads made to the Channel Awesome account, most notably the Infinity War Sibling War, which is obviously fairly new. Regardless, unfortunately for them, their comment section has been continually flooded with people asking about the document, with people blaming others for who's at fault, with people voicing their support for Channel Awesome despite their seeming shortcomings, and also people voicing their disdain about both Channel Awesome and the people supporting them. It's like no matter what they do, they can't get away from this.
Hello, I was the Nostalgia Critic, or Doug Walker if you prefer. I've made many mistakes. It's time that I do something about it. Let me tell you how I got here. I've always had big dreams. Ever since high school, I spent every day doodling and creating videos in my spare time, and the day they turned a profit, I got to live out the American dream. My videos were drawing in $10,000 a month, and my website got the attention of some important people. It seemed like the Nostalgia Critic was taking over. The videos had a few running gags. So many people gravitated toward me. The website had many key players. Countless people, artists, writers, actors, comic and video game enthusiasts. Holly, my brother Rob, and Mike Mashad were the big helpers behind the scenes. Truthfully, the amount of talented people is so high that no single comic could pay tribute to everyone. Mike's Office, 2008. Mike speaking. Hi, it's Lewis. You promised I would be on the front page of the site. Just curious why only Doug is on there. Linkara, let me level with you. Once you start making Doug level revenue, I'll put you in the Doug level slots, okay? Everything was going great. And being pro-feminist, the channel expanded when I held tryouts for my female counterpart, the Nostalgia Chick. Lindsay was a true contest winner. She was on the site a very long time.
then she wasn't.
Where is everybody?
I am the one who lost control, but in the end I'll be the last man standing. I am the one whose soul is sold.
Et qui s'est étalé sur 2 jours, 7 heures et 43 minutes. C'est une fille qui a gagné. Regardez, elle s'approche. Elle sourit. Elle sourit. Incroyable, cette jeune fille sourit.
But through it all, through darkness, through light, through love, through spite, one man has dared to take the throne. He is a man who, when the channel begged and needed him most, he responded with a, "Hello, you." Out of shadows walks not Todd, but Larry. A man who, despite on occasion reviewing obscure things, is no looper. A man who will never fail us. A man who immerses himself in nostalgia, but is no critic, nor chick. A man who no sidekick, no nerd, no blockbuster, nor snob has been able to defeat. He looks into the sea of wreckage to find that he is the sole survivor. There are no other challengers to his channel. He is the last man standing. A man who's looked into the eyes of the awesome abyss and said, "Fire me, pussy." He is not just a king, he is Gur Larry, the ruler of the awesome universe. Molyneux beware.
There is no more Channel Awesome. There is just Larry.
Taking all I'm giving, whatever my pride was lashing me, not backing down, not giving up. I am the one who lost control, but in the end I'll be the last man standing. I am the one whose soul is sold, forever got to be the last man standing. I walk alone with my head held high. Never felt that I belong. Stand my ground at all costs, running through life with blindfolds, just for the right to be wrong. I am the one who lost control, but in the end I'll be the last man standing. I am the one whose soul is sold, forever come to be the last man standing. I am the one who lost control, but in the end I'll be the last man standing. I am the one.
So does this mean this is the end? Well, yes and no. Channel Awesome is known for doing really stupid shit, and then doing dumber shit in order to compensate for the stupid shit that they did. I'm constantly told that there's more information out there, but it's tied up in legalities of what can and can't be said. I have no doubt in my mind, especially after how quick the jewario thing circulated, I have no doubt in my mind that these stories will eventually come out. And I have no doubt in my mind that this rabbit hole goes a little bit deeper. I don't know how much deeper it can go, but and if and when that information is presented, I'll be here. So there quite possibly could be a later installment. But for the foreseeable future, I don't think that there is. So just think, this isn't goodbye, this is goodbye for now. So with that being said, let's take a break from Channel Awesome. You know, there's so many other things that we need to talk about, like Smallville sex cults and Bill Slipper the Pill Cosby. I mean, we got a Billy Gunn retrospective, a look at what R. Kelly's been hiding in his open closet. We need to discuss what, if any, problems there are with Apu, WWE's deal with Saudi Arabia, I mean, and of course you know that I'm eventually gonna wind up doing a fucking video on the Gamer from Mars, fuck that guy, and you'll find out what famous all-girl group doubled as prostitutes. Guys, we have a ways to go. There's a lot to cover and this channel is only just beginning. So with that being said, just remember, if you're not tuning in, then you're missing out. I don't know how or why we wound up dubbing Larry the King of Channel Awesome in my live stream, but it kind of just, it took off. Like, a lot of people got on the bandwagon. I'm pretty sure most of them don't even know where that fucking came from at this point. And now that I finally made a video on all of this, I come to realize that a bunch of other people already did the same thing. So I feel like I'm late to a party that I helped plan. You know, because it wasn't really me. I was just kind of there for it. It was more Ren and Igor, if anything. Which, by the way, check them out. They do some good things on their channel. And now that we're closing up on this series, I said it before, and I'm probably going to be proven right. I imagine mass unsubscription. But in case you're still tuned in, in case you're still on board of this sinking ship, then throw out VTARD and proud in the comments. With that being said, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. To all of this, actually. From beginning to end. Just, you were there for it all. Some of you, I don't know why you were there. Some of you guys hated the first video and then were like, you know what? Let me watch his next 7 videos in full and then make angry comments on them. I appreciate the views, but I mean, I question your overall mentality.
Hi, I'm Doug Walker from Channel Awesome. At the end of our most popular show, Nostalgia Critic, we always do a charity shout-out encouraging people to donate. Whether it's volunteering or lending a helping hand, we're here to show what you can do.
You can go f*** yourself.
These videos are satiric reviews. You don't have to agree, but don't bitch about it.
I'm not sure if I'm more confused as to why I'm here or why you're here. Regardless of which, here we are in a part 10 video of what was initially supposed to be a 1-part series. So before I begin, let's get this out of the way.
You're milking this for all it's worth. You're irrelevant. You're just doing this for views. You're just jealous of them. You're a bully. You're gay. Your dick is small. You're a bitch. You'll never be as good as Channel Awesome.
Got that out of your system? No? Alright, good. Channel Awesome is filled with plastic people. Think of them as a group of Ken dolls, which, if you've ever seen any of the people that worked at Channel Awesome, you'd understand that that's quite a compliment by comparison. Think of them as a group of Ken dolls. Sure, they look human, but ultimately there's nothing between their eyes and there's definitely nothing between their legs. They're a bunch of ballless, brainless motherfuckers. Now, I'm not going to recap everything that took place within the last 9 episodes of my Change the Channel series, mainly because, me, the creator, and you, the viewer, neither of us have the time or patience for that. But suffice to say, a lot had come out about Channel Awesome's inner workings when the Channel Not So Awesome document was released. Whether it be from the document itself, or Channel Awesome's accidental admittance of guilt in reaction to it, because of the chaos that was unfolding at Channel Awesome, it seemed that both Rob and Doug Walker had handed in their resignations. It looked like the Walkers were going to make good on their last name and walk off into the sunset, with their heads held low. And yet, they're still at Channel Awesome making videos. Remember when Doug changed his Facebook to worked at Channel Awesome instead of working at Channel Awesome? Remember when Rob posted that picture of the burning tree to Twitter before deactivating his account? Or how about Malcolm answering tweets saying that he and Tamara may not be working for Channel Awesome, but they'll continue working with the Nostalgia Critic? This was them saying they were done with Channel Awesome, without publicly having to put out a statement about being done with Channel Awesome.
But V, don't you know that Channel Awesome always films months and months in advance?
Oh shit, do they? Well, then you're gonna have to tell me how Doug got his hands on a flux capacitor, because a lot of what he's been reviewing is newly released movies. Deadpool 2 has been out for, what, 2 weeks now when I'm recording this? and already they have a review, a sibling rivalry review, and a behind-the-scenes feature. The Walkers put on a front to make it seem like they'd left Channel Awesome. This was an attempt to temporarily disassociate with the Bad Name brand. But much like a lot of the other things that they've done, it was bullshit. This was just a thread in a long web of lies that Channel Awesome has told. It's one of many stories they've decided to try to sell you. They didn't leave, they're not leaving, they were never leaving. They just wanted to hang low and wait for this whole thing to blow over. Which, let's be honest, was a smart tactic, as every time they've responded to allegations from the not-so-awesome document, they've done more to declare their guilt than they have to prove their innocence. They denied comments while accidentally providing information that only made these allegations become regarded as fact by more and more people. While an entirely dishonest move, it is a smart one. Slowly but surely, people are forgetting about the document and the negative attention that came with it. People are forgetting that they knew about a rapist and continued to praise him publicly and hold him in high regard after his death, making him a false idol. On an unrelated note, doesn't Justin Carmichael just have the perfect, guilty ring to it? When someone says, hey, it was Carmichael who was grooming those kids, doesn't something about that just sound right? It's like, yeah, oh shit. No, that's definitely true. I don't even know who that dude is. That's true. Anyway, in laying low, Channel Awesome has devised the perfect response. Instead of issuing a heartfelt apology without completely discrediting and disregarding the claims against them, instead of attempting to better their product for the sake of those who they work with now, they've decided the best way to get on the public's good side was double up on charity.
Hey, won't somebody think of the children?
Associating with Kids Rank and working with children whose parents are in the military. And I don't know, I didn't watch that shit. That was a joke. Relax. Pitchforks down. Pitchforks down. Make no mistake, this is a good thing to do. But when the intention is to use this as a veil to cover up their questionable past, especially with how they glorified jewario, I don't know, I think it takes away from the matter just a little bit. It's not enough to do the right thing if you're doing it for the entirely wrong reason. Channel Awesome wasn't making this video to alert the public as to how they can help. They were showing off what they do for people. They were using the fact that they work with charity to gaslight the fact that they've done all these pretty shitty things. They haven't addressed the people they fucked over, including jewario's victims. They just swept it under the rug like they did with the rest of the not-so-awesome document and its contributors. This is now going to become the straw man argument of every Channel Awesome fanboy and fangirl.
They couldn't have done anything wrong. They work with charity. Talk shit after you've done what Channel Awesome has. Channel Awesome is for the children. You're a jerk.
This is going to be the argument that you'll hear on all videos, including this one. But there is something good that's come with this. I'm done. I'm 100% done. I don't care what they do next. I am not making another video on them, short of another Justin Carmichael situation coming out. Outside of that, that's it. It's over. Let's all move on. I don't want to do this anymore, because this has just become work that I don't want to do, and I'm miserable talking about this. So, this is it. Over. No more. No more. Done. No. So with that being said, I'm the Social Injustice Warrior V Infuso, and if you like the words that came out of my mouth hole and you too want to become a VTard, don't forget to like and subscribe. There's plenty more where this video came from. Follow me on Twitter because, hell, why not? It's not considered stalking if it's on the internet, am I right? And don't forget to join the Discord. I don't have anything catchy to add to that, but just join it. Just go do it. And if you have a free moment of time and a free $1 to spare, then head over to my Patreon, where for just $1, you too could help keep this boat afloat. And if you don't have that $1, but you do have a free moment of time, then hit the share button. It will help me out tremendously.
VTart, oh.